Chapter 1538. I didn't specifically teach them anything, nor did I change anything. I also didn't provide any special martial arts or special treasures. Only Jianmiaozhen. I gave some pointers to let her cultivate the spiritual method. Originally, this cultivation method was the most suitable for her, who knew that she would always walk the wrong path, leading to misunderstandings. Her spiritual power is extremely shocking, like an unopened treasure trove. With a little bit of manipulation, she can erupt with endless power. Yi Tianyan looked at them and said in a deep voice, "A person with an amazing foundation and extraordinary perseverance can reach the top. He has paid a much higher price than you all. You have been comfortable here for too long, leading to this situation." The other is a cultivation mistake, which means that the cultivation method is very important, and the guide is even more important. I don't need to do anything, just give some pointers, and she can perform at her level. The two of them have a common characteristic, which is that their willpower is strong enough, and their spiritual power is amazing. That's the one I want. It can be said that those who can climb to the top have good spiritual power, which means that their soul is not bad. The strength of the soul is very important. In the future, it can ensure that it is difficult for you to go berserk, and you can easily resist the inner demons of the heavenly tribulation. If the foundation is not solid, it is easy to fail. If the soul is too weak, it is easy to go berserk. These 2 points are the main points of my test. To me, nothing is more important than these 2 points. No matter how strong you are in battle, a little heavenly tribulation will turn you into ashes. If your cultivation is not solid enough, even if you break through several levels, you will still be abused. Yi Tianyan tried his best to convince them. This was his final goal, to let them know what the real test was. Indeed, actual combat was very important. But before actual combat, if they didn't even have this, the battle would definitely be lost. For example, those who were proud of their cultivation, in front of a spiritual attack, could not withstand a single blow. For a moment, everyone was silent, especially those who were against him. The silence was terrifying. Thinking about how they doubted Yi Tianyan's idea, they were really ashamed. Thinking about it carefully, if they could successfully refute, they would have long been great emperors, and not Yi Tianyan, the real great emperor. Tan Tiankong, you go and fight with Jianmiaozhen. Just simply feel the spiritual impact. Yi Tianyan signaled Tan Tiankong to go down and perform. Yes. Tan Tiankong quickly jumped down, and came in front of Jianmiaozhen. He cupped his hands, indicating that they could start. Jianmiaozhen didn't waste any time. Instead, her eyes flashed as waves of formless spiritual energy smashed into Tan Tiankong's head. After Tan Tiankong was bombarded once, he took a few steps back. His forehead was already dripping with cold sweat. At the same time, he shook his head, trying to shake off the feeling of fainting. Again. Tan Tiankong said in a deep voice. Jianmiaozhen nodded and once again launched a spiritual attack, repelling Tan Tiankong a few steps back. Tan Tiankong looked very uncomfortable, but he did not faint. Instead, he was still able to persevere. In the case of dealing with Spirit King stage experts, Jianmiaozhen could kill them in one hit, but against Tan Tiankong, she couldn't even stun him twice in a row. Yi Tianyan asked the two of them to fight, because he wanted to verify what he said before. Those who can climb to the top must have 2 abilities. It's not that Tan Tiankong can cultivate spiritual attack, but like Jianmiaozhen, everyone's cultivation method is different, and Tan Tiankong is indeed not suitable to cultivate spiritual attack technique. After seeing this scene, the Spirit King stage experts felt ashamed. They were at the Spirit King stage, but they couldn't even defeat a core condensation cultivator. With just a casual move, they were immediately convinced and didn't dare to ask any more questions. That's about it. You two can go back and rest. Yi Tianyan smiled faintly. He has explained everything. As for the other 2 disciples, they don't need to prove anything. Since they are better than the 2 of them, what else do they need to prove? Moreover, their reputation is excellent, so they don't need to prove anything. I don't know who else has an opinion. I am very willing to listen to everyone's opinions. Not only can you solve your doubts, but you can also improve our ideas. Yi Tianyan is very generous, so it's normal to have different doubts. There are so many people, it's impossible for them to have the same idea. We were too ignorant to ask such a stupid question. We shouldn't have questioned the heavenly cloud's great emperor's ideas. One by one, they fell to the ground and felt extremely ashamed of their actions. You are young and full of confidence, so it's normal for you to have such thoughts. This is just one of the stages, and there is no problem. You must learn to not be arrogant and impatient in order to move forward steadily. Yi Tianyan said. All the cultivators in the three realms' divine domain saw this scene, and their worship towards Yi Tianyan skyrocketed. So many cultivators have never seen Yi Tianyan before, but now they finally see him. He didn't show his skills, but his teaching ability is extremely amazing. The selected disciples are extremely strong, and they are not mediocre. Originally, they seemed to be ordinary or at the bottom of the list, but with a little guidance, they found that the method was wrong. Such a mentor is what they need. The disciple selection trial had finally come to an end. After that, they all left one after another, returning to their own places to properly cultivate. Many people are still reluctant to leave, and some want to continue to climb this divine ladder and continue to comprehend themselves. Here is an announcement. This divine ladder will always exist, and it will be held once every 50 years. Of course, I may not come to host it myself, but the elders and divine generals will continue to choose disciples. Therefore, if you want to continue the trial, cultivate well, and you can climb higher. After the news was announced, it immediately attracted a burst of cheers. They thought that it would only be held once, but it seems that it will continue. How can they not be excited? Next time, I must participate no matter what. I regret it. Why didn't I participate? It turns out that what is needed is not necessarily talent. The Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor is indeed the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. It seems that I have been inferior for too long. One by one, those who didn't participate regretted it. However, they have already decided to participate next time. Even if Yi Tianyan doesn't personally choose disciples, it will still be a huge selection of disciples. Chapter 1539. The disciple selection trial was finally over. Yi Tianyan asked the 4 disciples to come in front of him, while Yi Xixue giggled at the side. Daddy, am I not considered your disciple? Yi Xixue asked with a smile. Nope. Yi Tianyan waved his hand and said snappily. What do you want that I won't give? Do you still need to be my disciple? Yi Xixue smiled sweetly and said, Hee, then I'll go out to play with Sister Tsute. You guys have to work hard and don't let Daddy down. After saying that, she went out to play with Tsue. After Tsue was released, she often played with Yi Xixue. She did not look like the manager of the herb garden at all. After Yi Xixue left, Yi Tianyan shook his head helplessly. He looked at the 4 disciples sitting in front of him, each more serious than the last. In fact, their hearts were filled with incomparable pressure. To be able to become Yi Tianyan's disciple was naturally an honor, but at the same time, the pressure was also great. Especially what Yi Xixue said just now, it was to not let them down. They were afraid that they would let Yi Tianyan down. Yi Tianyan had always been a legendary existence. It would not be easy to catch up to him. The goal that he had set would not be simple either. Don't be so nervous, just relax. Yi Tianyan signaled them not to be too nervous. He knew what these disciples were thinking, so he naturally knew how to deal with it. Although that was the case, they did not dare to completely relax. They still maintained a straight face and were extremely serious. Yi Tianyan knew that it was not easy to change the situation. He said with a faint smile, Master's requirements for you guys are not too high. I'm not saying that you guys have to reach a certain level. I've never said that. You guys have to follow your own heart to cultivate your own Tao. I'm just here to assist you, to help you organize a little. I believe you guys know that Master rarely stays here, so I won't be guiding you guys all the time. However, I will arrange for other people. If you have any doubts, you can go and ask them. Now, I'll teach you what I should teach you first. Following this, Yi Tianyan handed them various treasures and martial arts that were suitable for them. Indeed, Yi Tianyan didn't have much time to stay here and give pointers. Even his own daughter couldn't enjoy such treatment, let alone them. Now that he was a little free, he would choose disciples to train. After a while he would leave. After receiving these martial arts, they casually sensed them and were shocked by their contents. Compared to what Xiaochen had learned, it was much stronger. This included the cultivation method of the 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Both of your cultivations have already reached the Earth Monarch realm. You've both heard of the 9 refinements Earth Monarch, but you've never heard of the 10 refinements Earth Monarch, right? Yi Tianyan smiled faintly, and his aura surged. 10 heavenly Dao chains appeared behind him. The immense pressure made the two of them want to kneel, but it only lasted for an instant before disappearing without a trace. The two of them were stunned. All along, they had only heard of Earth Monarch Jiulian. It was recorded in the books. Yi Tianyan's situation was beyond their imagination. Yes, they seemed to have turned into wood, and their expressions were dull. Tan Tiankong and the others hadn't cultivated to the Earth Monarch realm, so they didn't know the situation. They weren't that shocked, and could only feel that it was very strong. I've already listed out the detailed method for you. It's very difficult to break through, but since you can pass my trial, it's all suitable for cultivation. It's just that the difficulty is still very high. If you want to break through to the 10 refinements Earth Monarch realm, inform me first and let me come back to protect you. Yi Tianyan flicked his hand, and 2 jade pendants landed in their hands. He said solemnly, when you want to break through, crush this jade pendant. When I come back, I'll evaluate it and decide if you can break through. Yes, master. The two of them were extremely excited. It seemed that Yi Tianyan still valued them very much. He would even come back to protect them personally. This matter was very important. Yi Tianyan would definitely come back to protect them personally. Not only could the two of them break through to the 10 refinements Earth Monarch realm, even Tan Tiankong and the others could break through. When he set up this divine staircase, he listed the condition of physique. If they wanted to successfully ascend to the top, the condition of their physique definitely had to meet the standard. However, this standard wasn't very strict. If they met a little, they would be selected. As for the two of you, your starting point is relatively low, and you're much worse than your peers. But don't be discouraged. You've already proven yourselves. I don't need to say more about this. Yi Tianyan smiled and said, the two of you must not be arrogant or rash. Follow the previous pace. There's no need to rush your cultivation. I don't want you to mess up your pace. Yes, master. The two of them nodded heavily. They naturally knew what to do. Immediately after, Yi Tianyan flicked his hand. An array of light landed on Tan Tiankong's foot. Following that, the injury healed, and there was no problem at all. This kind of injury, to Yi Tianyan, could be healed with a flick of his hand. It wasn't difficult at all. Thank you, master. After Tan Tiankong felt that the injury on his foot was healed, he immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Yi Tianyan 3 times. Yi Tianyan nodded and said, that's about all I've done for you. Every time I return, I'll give you some pointers. At the same time, I'll check on your cultivation. I won't kick you out if your progress is too poor. No matter how fast you cultivate, it's your own business. I only need you to do one thing, and that is to be loyal to the 3 realms. That's enough. This was the focus of Yi Tianyan's training of his disciples. If one day he was no longer here, or if he was trapped somewhere for many years, the 3 of them would be especially important. They could become the generals that guarded the 4 directions. That's for sure. They patted their chests, and their expressions were full of seriousness. We will always be loyal to the 3 realms, loyal to Master. We will never betray them. This was their hometown, and they were instilled with Yi Tianyan's deeds since they were young. It had always been to protect the sect, and now it was to protect the 3 realms. Everything was so great, and they also wanted to continue this greatness. Yi Tianyan nodded with satisfaction. After giving some instructions, it was almost time to leave. After a warm moment with Shi Xueyun, he simply said a few words and headed to the Heaven Cultivation God realm. Previously, the great Deva said that after his cultivation broke through to the Heavenly Venerable realm, he would take him to a special area to strengthen him. Now that he had broken through to the Heavenly Venerable realm, and the matters here were also done, it was time to go to the Heaven Cultivation God realm, and find the great Devis. Chapter 1540. Tianyan easily arrived at the periphery of the heaven-cultivating god territory through the teleportation divine stone. He would not directly teleport to the heaven-cultivating god territory. That would definitely be detected. When he arrived outside the passageway, the guards immediately intercepted him. Tianyan simply took out a token, extended it forward, and they immediately let him in. Without saying too much, he easily entered. With this token, he was equivalent to a person in the heaven-cultivating god territory, so he could naturally enter easily. Look, that's the disciple of the great elder. I heard that he was a divine lord before, but now he has broken through to heavenly venerable. This speed is really fast. How long has it been? And he has already broken through to heavenly venerable. Maybe he was already about to break through, and just happened to break through during this period of time. Who cares? With the protection of the great elder, his future is limitless. The key is that he can get so many benefits without any credit. I really can't accept it. Yet it's really enviable. Why don't we have such treatment, and can only guard the door here? A group of guards looked at Tianyan's back as he left, each and every one of them indignant, feeling that it was really unfair. The great Devis had just returned, and he became the great elder. The power he controlled was not low, and the resources he controlled were naturally not little. As the disciple of the great Devis, how could he lack resources? With a wave of his hand, he could get a large number of resources. The great Devis was the son of the heaven-cultivating domain lord. Just thinking about it was scary. Tianyan went directly to the temple where the great Devis was. Under the guidance of the guards, he came to the study room of the great Devis and gently knocked on the door. "Come in." The deep voice of the great Devis came from inside. After Tianyan walked in, he said respectfully, "Master, disciple is here." The great Devis looked up, and after sizing him up, he smiled and said, "Your cultivation broke through to heavenly venerable so quickly. It's really unexpected. But the most important thing is that you are a 10 refining earth monarch. This is something that Master never thought about." It wasn't strange for the great Devis to know about this matter. It was definitely heavenly venerable Sword C and the others who came over to tell him. Otherwise he wouldn't know. This can be considered a fluke. This disciple has been trying to force a breakthrough, but I didn't expect that I would actually succeed. The difficulty of it is truly unimaginable. If possible, I really don't want to cultivate the 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Tianyan shook his head. These words were not spoken randomly. Back then, when he was trying to break through to the 10 refinements Earth Lord, it was really quite difficult. Whatever crazy mode was useless. If not for his strong foundation, he would have died there. No matter what, you've set a precedent, letting people know that there really is a saying of the 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Although it's very difficult, there are still people who keep trying. After all, it's a miracle. The great Devis closed the book in his hand and smiled. However, you can't expose your identity so easily. Otherwise, even I won't be able to protect you. I can only escape with you. The heavenly cultivation god realm was very strong, but it was not invincible. Under the encirclement of so many people, it was definitely difficult to protect him. That's for sure. Tianyan smiled. He didn't intend to expose it casually. Then he took out a book and handed it over. "Master, this is a little bit of my experience of cultivating the 10 refinements Earth Lord. Cultivating the 10 refinements Earth Lord is extremely difficult. This is just one of the methods of reference. Even if you cultivate according to what I said, you might not succeed. Everyone's situation is different, so you can't overly follow what I said." What Tianyan gave out was indeed the cultivation method of the 10 refinements Earth Lord. In fact, it was just a little bit of experience. For example, the attributes of the physique, or some environmental support. These were all not big deal content. To others, this was extremely hidden content. To him, that was the most ordinary content. He was just a 10 refinements Earth Lord. He had crazy mode, so nothing was as strong as this. In the future, if there were more 10 refinements Earth Lords, it wouldn't affect him. He was the first to become a 10 refinements Earth Lord. This was true. Moreover, even if he didn't say it out, There would be people who would slowly find it out in the future. It was just a matter of time. Right now, he simply gave the method to the great Devis. After all, they were all on the same side. It didn't matter if they found out. He was afraid that his opponents would find out. That would be the worst. This. The great Devis was excited. Although he was a master, he would never force his disciples to give him any treasures or martial arts. Now that Yi Tianyan took the initiative to give it to him, it definitely made him excited. He definitely wanted to gain some insights and see how he had succeeded. However, he was too embarrassed to ask. Now it was different. Yi Tianyan took the initiative to give it to him, so he was excited. He immediately flipped through it and sighed. Thank you, Tianyan. You are my master. There is no need to thank me. It is nothing at all. Yi Tianyan smiled. You are too modest. If you give it to other forces, this experience is at least equivalent to an elder's position. It is also equivalent to many upper-level celestial venerable treasures. The great Devis said solemnly. Anyway, I think it is nothing. Master, you can use it however you want, Yi Tianyan said casually. Yes, I will use it in the vast divine sect. I will not promote it here. The great Devis nodded. For this, I owe you a favor. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? Isn't it normal for disciples to give offerings to their master? Yi Tianyan was speechless. How could he owe him a favor? Others might think it is normal, but I don't think so. Especially such a precious experience. The great Devis smiled. It is settled. I have nothing to give you, so I can only say this. Master, didn't you say that you will bring me to a special area? Isn't that equivalent to a reward? Yi Tianyan said. You can't mix them up. Both of them are different. The great Devis smiled. That is all for now. I will make some preparations and get ready to set off later. Then the great Devis went to busy himself and asked Yi Tianyan to wait here. Yi Tianyan felt a little bored and went to wait outside the hall. Just as he stepped out and stood there for a short while, he heard a piercing sound. Isn't this the genius who won several battles in a row? Are you here to look for the great elder? At this time, a group of cultivators came over. The leader was a heavenly god expert, but he was not an elder. He was a deacon. Not all heavenly gods could become elders. The great Devis was an exception. Chapter 1541. Heavenly god Xiuxing's brows furrowed, and he was enraged by the fact that Yi Tianyan was ignoring him. Little brat, do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have the Grand Elder as your master? You have to follow the rules of the heavenly cultivation god realm, not the rules of the vast divine sect. Heavenly god Xiuxing was enraged, and he pressed a hand down toward Yi Tianyan. A burst of power appeared in the air before crushing down upon his head. Kneel! Heavenly god Xiuxing was naturally very displeased by this. Regardless of what the rules were in the outside world, disobeying one's superior in the heavenly cultivation god realm was a grave sin. Yi Tianyan straightened his body in the face of the surging pressure, and he unleashed his super heavenly venerate title to nullify a lot of the heavenly god's power. Furthermore, he was quite powerful, so this power posed no threat to him at all. Heavenly god Xiuxing's expression darkened. He didn't think that his attack would have no effect on Yi Tianyan. This was quite humiliating for him. Impudent! You dare to resist? Heavenly god Xiuxing flared up with rage, and he unleashed a ferocious palm strike toward Yi Tianyan. A cold expression appeared on Yi Tianyan's face. He didn't think that Heavenly god Xiuxing would dare to attack him. Heavenly cultivation star's palm came crashing down. If he was struck, he definitely wouldn't die, but he would definitely be severely wounded. Heavenly cultivation star's attack was quite vicious, and it was clear that he was enraged. Crazy damage mode activate. Yi Tianyan quickly activated his power, and his combat prowess soared drastically. His body disappeared on the spot in a flash, and he instantly teleported beside Heavenly god Xiuxing before lashing out with a ferocious kick. Heavenly god Xiuxing was sent flying before crashing violently into the nearby wall. Humph! Heavenly god Xiuxing let loose a muffled groan, and blood trickled down the corners of his lips as he sustained some internal injuries. This kick was naturally not light, but it wasn't very powerful either. If Etionyan had unleashed his full power, he would definitely have been able to insta-kill Heavenly Cultivation Star, but he didn't do so. If he did that, he would definitely be held accountable, and he didn't want to put the Great Devis in a difficult position. Since his opponent didn't intend to take his life, he wouldn't take his opponent's life either. Such a situation shocked the people around them. They didn't expect Heavenly Cultivation Star to be knocked flying. This was a heavenly venerate. Even if there was some prediction error, how could the prediction error be so big? An attack that even a heavenly god couldn't react to. Just how strong was it? You dare to resist? You're courting death. Heavenly god Xiaoxing slapped the ground with rage and sprang into the air. The power of a heavenly god erupted forth, instantly enshrouding the entire divine palace. Why can't I resist? My master cultivates the heavenly god realm, but I don't. Since I'm not a disciple of the heavenly god realm, why do I have to follow the rules here? Etionyan had a cold expression on his face. They had never joined the heavenly god realm. They had only come last time to prove that the Great Devis's method was correct. It was impossible for them to join the heavenly god realm. Besides, even the Great Devis didn't plan on letting them join the heavenly god realm. They could just stay in the vast divine sect. Heavenly Cultivation Star's expression was terrifyingly dark. Even so, you still have to follow the rules here. It looks like I'll have to teach you a lesson on behalf of the Grand Elder. He really was about to explode with rage. He was a heavenly god, yet he was sent flying by a heavenly venerate just like that? He would be utterly humiliated if word of this got out. He had to teach Etionyan a lesson no matter what. Otherwise, he really would be humiliated. Just as he was about to teach Etionyan a lesson, a low voice sounded beside him. Who is it that wants to teach my disciple a lesson in my place? The Great Devis had already arrived at this moment, and he glowered at Heavenly Cultivation Star with a cold expression. Heavenly God Xiaoxing quickly withdrew his aura, and didn't dare to act recklessly. However, he still spoke in a solemn voice. Grand Elder, your disciple is disrespecting his superior. If you don't do something about it, he'll definitely attract trouble. I'm teaching him a lesson in your place, so that the reputation of the heavenly god realm won't be tarnished. That's my business, and it has nothing to do with you. If there's nothing else, then please leave. The Great Devis completely ignored him. That's all I have to say. Heavenly Cultivation Star turned and left with his people. The Great Devis's status was much higher than his, and if he didn't obey, then he would be disrespecting his superior. He was in the wrong anyway. Etionyan was a guest here, so why did he have to follow the rules here? Besides, he didn't do anything. All he did was not greet him. Who did Heavenly Cultivation Star think he was? After Heavenly Cultivation Star left, the Great Devis turned to Etionyan with a smile. I only left for a short while, and something happened. I had no choice. I couldn't sit still, so I came out for a stroll. Who would have thought that I would encounter him? Etionyan shrugged. It looks like Master's position here isn't stable yet. That's for sure. I've only been here for a short while, so if I haven't made any significant contributions, who would listen to me? I've really been away for too long. The Great Devis smiled. So be it, let's not talk about this anymore. We can set off now. After that, Boundless Heaven God brought him away. Not long after they left, someone came out from the side, glanced at them for a moment, then turned and left. Most likely, he was going to report something to the higher-ups. The Great Devis left the Heavenly Cultivation Divine Realm with Etionyan, and flew toward another divine realm on a spirit ship. Along the way, the Great Devis explained, the place I'm taking you to is actually quite simple. It's a heavenly god region. Since you've already broken through to the heavenly venerable stage, there won't be any danger. A heavenly god region? Etionyan faltered slightly. Could it be a heavenly god historical site or something like that? More or less. Due to the instability of the space, it's not advisable to stay there for too long if your cultivation base is too low. So you have to break through to the heavenly venerable stage. When you get there, you just need to stroll around and cultivate for a while. There's still a lot of heavenly god power there. You should go there and experience it, the Great Devis explained. Isn't Master a heavenly god? Can't I just experience your heavenly God power? Tianyan was puzzled. That's not the same. That's the power of an ancient heavenly God. I often go there to comprehend something, and that's why I'm able to successfully break through. The great Devas smiled. Your senior brothers are all like this. I'll take them to this region to cultivate and comprehend in advance. To break through to the heavenly God stage, you have to start from the heavenly venerable stage. If you wait until later, you might have already gone down the wrong path. Chapter 1542. Under the guidance of the great Devas, they pass through several divine realms and many turbulent space flows before finally arriving near the heavenly God region. There are many turbulent space flows here. Did Master come here alone? Tianyan looked around. There were many turbulent space flows here, much more than in the outside region. If a divine lord was sucked in, they would undoubtedly die. Unless they were some special divine lords, they would definitely die. No wonder the great Devas told them to break into the Empyrean realm. After breaking through to the Empyrean realm, the difficulty of coming here would be much lower. At the very least, they wouldn't die after being sucked in by the turbulent space flows. Of course, there were some turbulent space flows that didn't necessarily mean anything. They would just casually transfer people to other regions. These were considered lucky. Some would directly tear people apart and grind them to powder. It would be difficult for them to come back to life. Yes. Back then I came here alone, so the danger level was quite high. The great Deva smiled. He looked ahead and said, "This place has basically been completely plundered, so there's no need to think about picking up any leftovers. There are only some auras left behind, and some traces left behind by the ancient heavenly gods. If you meditate on them, you can still perceive many things." Tianyan nodded. There were many ruins nearby, but they had definitely been plundered. Unless it was new or something that had appeared long ago, it would have been plundered countless times. In particular, the ruins of the heavenly gods were crazily plundered. Every brick had likely been dug up and not a single detail had been missed. Thus, it was impossible to hope that one could make a fortune by picking up leftovers. Since everything had been dug up, what else could there be? The great Devas didn't bring him here to pick up leftovers, but to see the traces of battle and some insights left behind by the ancient heavenly gods. It's in this region. The great Devas brought Tianyan out of the spirit ship. The place they chose was relatively central, and also relatively safe. There were basically no turbulent space flows in this region, and it seemed very safe. Tianyan looked around. This region was desolate, and there were dilapidated ruins everywhere. However, he could see many traces of battle. After staring for a while, he immediately felt a surging battle intent, as if he was brought back to the battle between god emperors. Apart from that, there were also some ancient ruins on the walls with many things carved into them. Some of them were things the ancient heavenly gods had comprehended in passing, and they could also be used as a reference. Tianyan really needed this kind of comprehension. Indeed, he only needed experience points to level up, but there were many things that he needed to comprehend on his own in order to become stronger. For example, in the area of martial arts, or in the area of the soul, many of them needed to be done personally. Just relying on experience was really not enough to improve anything. "Look, the place I brought you to," Boundless God said with a smile. "If you say it's useful, it's useful. But if you say it's useless, it's not particularly useful. So, if you want to use this to repay the favor, I'm not that thick-skinned. You'll have to stay here for a while. I'll come and get you after a while. If you want to leave, that's fine too. Just choose a place where the turbulent space flows are not chaotic." Tianyan nodded. There weren't too many highlights here, but for him, it was still a lot of help. According to the great Devas, there was really no way to repay that favor. "All right, I'll go back by myself when the time comes." Tianyan planned to take a detour here. If he wanted to go back, he could use a teleportation godstone to leave, which was much faster than riding a spirit ship. "All right, there won't be any cultivators coming here. Even if there are, as long as you don't provoke them, you'll be fine." The great Devas exhorted a few words, and then left. The great Devas's job was basically done. His goal was simple. Although it seemed shabby, He was able to break through to the heavenly god realm because of this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought Tianyan here in advance. After the great Devis left, Tianyan casually wandered around the heavenly god ancient site. As soon as he entered, he immediately felt the power of the heavenly god. Compared to the power released by the current heavenly god, he felt that it was much thicker, as if they weren't on the same level. It was obviously the power of the heavenly god, but there was a difference between the early and late stages of the heavenly god's power. He didn't know how the heavenly god of that era cultivated to form such a strong power. Although Tianyan had experienced the memories of that battle, he didn't know the details of the process. However, judging from the ancient materials he had obtained from killing the heavenly gods, they were quite rare. If he used them to cultivate, he would be able to improve a lot. Immediately, he walked in front of one of the walls. After sensing it for a bit, he immediately discovered that it was a martial art. He didn't expect that there would be a heavenly god who would carve his martial art on the wall. If he hadn't been attacked, perhaps this martial art would have been sealed in a place where he could see it. Tianyan sized it up and scanned it with his appraisal eye. He immediately made a copy of the contents on it, and analyzed it at the same time. Soon after some analysis, Tianyan was stunned. This martial art is completely different from the current one. If I want to use it, I need to be at least at the level of 3 or 4 planets in order to fully display it. Tianyan was dumbfounded. It was extremely difficult for current cultivators to condense planets. It was as if they had been sealed. At most they could condense 2 planets. 3 was already extremely difficult. Whether it was a heavenly venerate or a heavenly god, condensing 2 planets was already not bad. As for those with more than 3 planets, it was even more difficult. However, this martial art required 3 planets to get started. Without 3 planets, it was basically impossible to display its effects. The condensed planets can be the same. No wonder. After Tianyan continued to analyze, he discovered that it was possible to condense 3 planets of the same attribute at the same time. Tianyan couldn't condense the same planets. To be exact, he could still condense planets of the same level. However, he needed to reach a point of energy balance, which was a little difficult. The main reason was that he was too lazy to do so. One more similar planet was equivalent to having one more energy reserve planet. In the past, the powerhouses had condensed similar planets or multiple planets in order to display the true effects. Now, because the difficulty was too high, the martial arts they were learning were all weakened versions. So that's what happened. No wonder their energy is so thick. Tianyan had just arrived. After analyzing a set of ancient martial arts, he immediately understood what was going on. Chapter 1543. From the looks of it, there were probably quite a few 10 refinement Earth monarchs back then. Tianyan frowned. The title he obtained was only the number 1 Earth monarch throughout the ages. In other words, it was only within the 10,000 eons. This meant that beyond the 10,000 eons, there would still be Earth Lords of the 10 refinements. According to this cultivation method, there would definitely be 10 refinement Earth monarchs in the past, and there would definitely be quite a few of them. It wouldn't be like this era where they couldn't even condense 2 planets. This made him feel very strange. Why wasn't this problem a long time ago, but now it had appeared? Could it be that something had changed? Even if the resources were scarce, it didn't mean that there were no resources. No matter what, they could nurture a few 10 refinement Earth monarchs. But now, apart from him, there was no one. This was really tragic. Could it be that something has changed? Tianyan frowned. He felt that he had to break through that limit to become a 10 refinement Earth monarch. Thinking back to the various difficulties back then, it was as if they had been sealed layer by layer, making it difficult for them to break through. Tianyan looked up at the sky. Perhaps it really wasn't a problem with the cultivation method, but something specific had changed. But who had the power to change the situation of an era? What was the meaning behind it? With this question in mind, Tianyan continued to explore the other heavenly god ancient sites. In the other heavenly god ancient sites, he could also find similar martial arts engraved on stone tablets. Some only had half of them left, and only a small portion of the content was visible. This didn't hinder Yi Tianyun's investigation. Through the analysis of the appraisal eye, he could still find some clues. It was still the same situation as before. They all required multiple planets to cultivate. It was clear that many planets could be condensed at that time, but for some reason, they couldn't condense planets easily. These are really full of mysteries. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He couldn't find the corresponding records here. It could only be said that there might be some inside information about the battle between the god emperors. When he continued to investigate, a wave of energy quickly surrounded the entire area, sealing off the surrounding space. Yi Tianyun quickly stepped outside and discovered that there were 3 heavenly gods surrounding him. One of them looked very familiar. It was Heavenly Cultivation Star. Who would have thought that Heavenly Cultivation Star would chase them all the way here? Since he had come, there was no doubt that he wanted to kill him. Brat, let's see if you can survive this. A sinister expression appeared on Heavenly God Xiaoxing's face. Who would have thought that Heavenly God Xiaoxing would hold a grudge against him, and even gather 2 other heavenly gods to surround him? Heavenly Cultivation Star, you summoned 2 heavenly gods for me. You sure have a high opinion of me. Yi Tianyun's expression remained indifferent, and he was not fearful in the slightest. Looking closely at the other 2 heavenly gods, he discovered that these 2 heavenly gods did not cultivate the heavenly god realm, but were from other god realms. Indeed, he really thinks quite highly of you. Heavenly Cultivation Star chuckled coldly. It's just that I didn't think that the great Devis would leave so quickly. We were still a step too slow. Yi Tianyun's expression darkened. It looked like the 3 of them were not here to kill him. Instead, they were here to deal with the great Devis. The heavenly cultivation god realm sure is rotten. Who would have thought that they would kill their own people and collude with powerful beings from other god realms? What a bunch of lackeys. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He was glad that his master had left first. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to escape if he was intercepted here. You dare to call me a lackey? Heavenly Cultivation Star was enraged. Talking to Yi Tianyun really did infuriate him to the point of vomiting blood. You're either a lackey or a traitor. What's the difference? Yi Tianyun chuckled coldly. Heavenly Cultivation Star calmed his rage and stared at him, as if he were looking at a dead man. So be it. What's the point of bickering with a junior? You can say whatever you want. This mouth of yours will disappear very soon. Your master will be here to accompany you very soon. It was quite clear that they had made up their minds to destroy the great Devis. As for what they were going to do, it was unclear. In particular, Yi Tianyun didn't know who the mastermind behind all of this was. What do you want? What did my master do to make you want to do this? Yi Tianyun asked. There's no need for you to know that. Just be obedient and go to hell. You'll slowly find out the truth. Heavenly Cultivation Star signaled to his companions with his eyes, indicating that they were about to begin. The 3 heavenly gods immediately sprang into action. They stretched out their hands to seal off the space around Yi Tianyun before quickly compressing it. If things continued like this, Yi Tianyun would definitely be flattened. The other 2 heavenly gods didn't say anything, as if they were mutes. It could only be said that they had no interest in Yi Tianyun. A heavenly venerate was nothing more than an ant to them, so they couldn't be bothered to say anything. However, this is the effect that Yi Tianyun wanted. If he was careless, he would die. Immediately, Yi Tianyun's figure flashed and disappeared from the place. The impregnable sealed space was like an open door, allowing him to leave and stay as he pleased. In the next moment, Yi Tianyun appeared next to one of the heavenly gods. He waved the 5-dragon divine spear in his hand and stabbed it heavily. Roar! The 5 dragons pierced into the heavenly god's body, and before the other party could even scream, they directly detonated, completely blowing the heavenly god up. With the crazy damage mode and the stacking of skills, the power directly soared to the maximum. How could it not be a one-hit kill? Especially these heavenly gods, they didn't have any protection. They didn't even summon any heavenly venerate spirit treasures. Who would have thought that Yi Tianyun would easily break through their blockade and directly kill them? Successfully killed heavenly god Jiyun. Reward: 6 million compressed EXP, 60,000 compressed crazy point, 40,000 compressed SPS. Obtained flowing cloud spirit treasure, lower level heavenly venerate spirit treasure. Golden plated spirit treasure, middle level heavenly venerate spirit treasure. Flowing wind spirit treasure, upper level heavenly venerate spirit treasure. Reward: 100,000 compressed EXP for killing a heavenly venerate spirit treasure. After killing a heavenly venerate spirit treasure, a terrifying amount of compressed EXP exploded. A lot more than the heavenly venerate level. Feeling the surging EXP again, it's really cool. Level up. Ding. Congratulations to player Etianyan for successfully leveling up to lower level heavenly venerate middle stage. The heavenly gods he killed before, plus the heavenly gods he killed now, accumulated enough EXP to level up, but that's it. If he wants to continue to level up, he needs to kill several heavenly gods in a row. He needs too much EXP now. Chapter 1544. Etianyan insta-killed a heavenly god with lightning speed, stunning the other two heavenly gods. Especially heavenly god Xiuxing. He knew that Etianyan was a little strange, but he never thought that it would be this strange. Everything was so strange. All of a sudden he appeared next to his companion, and killed him in an instant. They had joined forces to unleash a spatial sealing formation. Let alone a lesser heavenly venerate, even a heavenly god would be sealed. Who would have thought that against Etianyan? It would be as if everything had lost its effect. Instead, one of their heavenly gods was killed. You killed my brother, I'm going to kill you. The heavenly god who had been silent all this while finally spat out a sentence. He immediately charged toward Etianyan, and summoned 3 spirit treasures to surround his body. Only now did he completely unleash his full strength. He had underestimated his opponent before, but now that his companion had been killed, he was filled with grief and indignation. He unleashed his strongest power without any regard for anything else. Heavenly god Xiuxing was also enraged. He immediately summoned 3 spirit treasures and charged toward Enlin. Because he had underestimated his opponent before, his companion had been killed. How could he dare to underestimate his opponent now? He was treating Etianyan as an equal opponent. Facing the attacks of 2 heavenly gods, Etianyan felt the pressure multiply. If it weren't for the fact that he had made a breakthrough in his cultivation, he would have been severely suppressed. Kill me? Then you guys can have fun. Etianyan sneered. He turned around and quickly teleported to the side, escaping from this area. In an instant, the distance between them was widened by a large margin. Etianyan wouldn't fight them head-on, especially when there were 2 heavenly gods. It would be very difficult to deal with them. It was already very difficult to deal with one, let alone 2 heavenly gods. Heavenly gods weren't cabbages. They weren't that easy to deal with. Thus, his main goal now was to escape. He would escape if he could. After escaping a certain distance, he tried to use the teleportation divine stone, only to find that it didn't work. It was as if he had been trapped. It's useless. Could it be that the nearby space isn't stable enough, and the teleportation god stone can't be used? Etianyan's heart sank. This was something he hadn't thought of. Since a long time ago, the teleportation god stone was not an invincible means of escape. It still had various limitations. For example, if space was locked, one would not be able to escape. One could only use teleportation to escape. Right now, there was quite a bit of spatial turbulence in the surroundings, forming a thick seal that locked down the space, making it impossible to use teleportation godstones. In this case, he could only escape from this area and use the teleportation godstone again. Don't even think of escaping. Heavenly god Xiuxing and the others hurtled toward Enlin at top speed, instantly closing down the distance between them. Celestial deities were celestial deities. The speed they erupted with was incomparable, far from what Empyreans could compare to. Even if Etianyan activated his Kuanpeng bloodline, he still wouldn't be able to match their speed. It would already be impressive if he could keep up with them, let alone surpass them. Etianyan's crazy damage mode provided damage, not speed. This was why there was such a gap between them. He could quickly close the gap between them in terms of combat prowess, but he couldn't close the gap in terms of speed. Etianyan's expression darkened, but he could only continue flying forward. At the same time his body flashed and he disappeared on the spot. In the next instant he teleported to another area. He didn't dare to teleport too far away. There were too many spatial turbulence in the surroundings, and if he got too close, he would be sucked into it. Don't even think of escaping. They roared angrily and continued to chase after Enlin. Their speed increased again, and they rushed toward Enlin with all their might, completely ignoring the spatial turbulence around them. An enraged heavenly god was quite terrifying. Go! Yi Tianyan tossed out several inferior-grade heavenly venerate spirit treasures in quick succession, which exploded toward the two of them. After the extreme heavenly venerate spirit treasures were detonated, a violent explosion enshrouded them. Moments later, they broke through the explosion and continued to chase after Enlin. The explosion only had a minor effect on them, almost negligible. All of their heavenly venerate spirit treasures were brought out. Regardless of whether it was defense or attack, they all increased a great deal. Just detonating these low-level heavenly venerate spirit treasures would not cause any major damage to him. Useless? Then change to another one. Yi Tianyan ruthlessly threw out a middle-level heavenly venerate spirit treasure again, detonating the power inside. Boom. Boom. Compared to a low-level heavenly venerate spirit treasure, it was several times stronger, even over a dozen times stronger. The flame tongues of the explosion directly swallowed them up. The power was much greater, at least equivalent to an upper heavenly venerate's all-out attack. Furthermore, it was the extremely strong kind. This kid is really willing to part with it. They rushed out of that explosion again, already in sorry states. It was not like before when they only had a little bit of injuries. But overall, there was not too much of a problem. The impact was not great. This kind of offensive made them pause for a short while, but they continued to chase after again very quickly, their hearts exploding with anger. When we catch him later, we must skin him alive for me. His grandma, what a freak. Detonating heavenly venerate spirit treasures twice in a row let them experience what was called extravagance. If it were them, they would not dare to be so wasteful. If they saw Yi Tianyan crazily flinging out many heavenly venerate spirit treasures before, they would know what was called squandering. When they just came out of the explosion, they looked up and discovered that there was no one in front of them. Where is he? Just as they were in a trance, a sense of crisis came from behind them. 5 giant dragons pierced through the defenses of one of the celestial deities, closely following that, continuing to penetrate inside. Sneak attack. Yi Tianyan's favorite way to deal with these powerhouses was to sneak attack. Using the effect of instant transmission, he could absolutely toy with them in circles. Break for me! Yi Tianyan roared angrily. Extreme penetrative power superimposed on the 5-dragon divine spear, all of his power similarly pouring out. Get lost for me! This celestial deity roared angrily, reaching out a hand to slap over here, wanting to smash the divine spear that pierced over flying. But Yi Tianyan's speed was a tad faster. A spear flung over, puncturing this celestial deity's body. Boom. The two were blasted flying at the same time. Yi Tianyan was smashed flying out, and the other party's body was also blasted to smithereens. But he did not die, merely suffering serious injuries. Yi Tianyan was smashed by this move, and similarly suffered considerable injuries. Sure enough, clashing head-on with a celestial deity who was prepared, he could not achieve the degree of crushing them for the time being. Dealing with them was very difficult. Unless his cultivation went a step further, perhaps his sneak attack just now could have killed them in one move. Even if he could not kill them in one move, he could at least make them lose combat strength. Right now he could only seriously injure them, not kill them. Chapter 1545. Yi Tianyan didn't manage to kill the heavenly deity, but the damage he brought caused them to feel incomparably shocked. He almost succeeded. Just think about it, a lesser Empyrean being able to seriously injure a celestial deity. It was enough to scare people to death. Even if it was a sneak attack, it was still very shocking. Especially when he was prepared, he was still able to do this. This proved that it was quite shocking. Damn it, this brat is too strange. The two of them were shocked and angry. They didn't expect that a brat could seriously injure them. Not only did he kill their companions, But he also heavily injured them. This was definitely out of their expectations. This kid can't be left alive. The two of them glanced at each other. The three Empyrean spirit treasures revolving around them bloomed with dazzling light as they bombarded Etianyan. This time, they were beginning to overdraw on the strength of their Empyrean spirit treasures. At the cost of their Empyrean spirit treasures, they were fiercely attacking Etianyan. No matter how much pain they felt in their hearts, they could only let it out. If they allowed Etianyan to continue his sneak attacks, they would really be finished. Hoo. Etianyan quickly recovered from the injuries in his body. His injuries were not light, but with his super recovery ability, he quickly recovered from most of them. Even so, it would be troublesome for him to launch another sneak attack. Through this sneak attack, he had a rough idea of the gap between them. The difference in cultivation was still too great. My speed is still a little lacking. Level up. Etianyan's eyes flashed. He immediately spent crazy points on Kuan-Pung bloodline. Ding. The rock bloodline has been upgraded to level 3. Speed increased by 50 times. Below the heavenly venerable level. Originally, the Kuan-Pung bloodline could increase one's speed by 100 times. Now after the upgrade, it did not increase one's speed by much. Instead, it decreased to 50 times. However, it was allowed to increase the speed by 50 times under the cultivation of an Empyrean. This was already enough. Previously, when he broke through to the heavenly venerable realm, he could only increase his speed by a few times or a dozen times. Now that he had leveled up, his speed had increased by more than 50 times, which meant that he would be many times faster than before. But correspondingly, the amount of crazy point required is really enough, and a lot of it was deducted at once. Fortunately, he didn't use much crazy point recently, so he could level up. Just as he finished leveling up, the attacks of the two in front of him happened to hit him. Etianyan's figure flickered, and the image of a Kuan-Pung appeared behind him. Whoosh! It was countless times faster than teleportation. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from their sight. Boom! At the same time, their attacks exploded in the area where Etianyan had been. The affected area was extremely wide, and even the ancient ruins nearby were affected. Rocks flew everywhere. This kid, let's see if he can survive this time. They heaved a sigh of relief. It would be strange if they didn't die after expending so much energy. The power of their attacks was truly at the level of a powerful lower-level heavenly god. Let alone an Empyrean, even an ordinary heavenly god would be severely injured. Just when they thought that everything was over, the 5 enormous dragons seemed to have passed through time and space, roaring madly from behind them. They rushed into the body of the heavenly deity that had been heavily injured before. How? Boom! The spear was like a dragon, roaring and tearing apart everything. Before this heavenly god could even react, he was already blasted into dregs. The attack this time truly tore through everything, completely wiping out this heavenly deity. Before, it didn't completely penetrate the inside of the heavenly god, but now, taking advantage of the fact that he was killed, it completely crushed him at a faster speed. To be able to kill a heavenly god, the difficulty was really not small. The attack was enough to kill him, but the speed was half a beat slower. Now that the speed has increased, it finally filled a loophole and killed him at a faster speed. This is also thanks to these two guys. They were too confident in themselves and thought that they could really kill Etianyan. It has to be said that the attack range is really wide. A large area was blocked, but for him, it was useless. With the amazing speed of the Kuan-Pung, he quickly escaped from the attack range. Especially with instant teleportation, it is the perfect escape plan. Ding, successfully killed 8 Cloud Heavenly God, 60,000 compressed Crazy Point, 40,000 compressed Sin Point. Obtained 8 Cloud Spirit Treasure, Lower Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure, 8 Wind Spirit Treasure, Middle Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure, 8 Great Spirit Treasure, Upper Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure. Obtained additional kill reward, 50,000 compressed Crazy Point. The reward once again exploded, which made Etianyan feel extremely comfortable. If he kills 2 or 3 more heavenly gods, he will be able to level up again. This speed of leveling up is absolutely amazing. Your speed. Heavenly God Xiaoxing was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Tianyan to be able to sneak around them and attack them again. This time, he was really scared. He even suspected that Yi Tianyan's cultivation is at the heavenly god level. Otherwise, how could he be so powerful? What's wrong with my speed? Now that you are the only one left, let me see the power of your heavenly god realm. Yi Tianyan snorted coldly. Heavenly god Xiaoxing definitely won't let him go. He will never let go of those who want to kill him. Even if he can't kill them right away, after a while he will hunt them down for revenge. He has always believed in revenge. This is the principle he always believes in. Heavenly god Xiaoxing's face sank. He didn't expect that after losing 2 of his companions this time, Yi Tianyan still wants to challenge him. You're just as arrogant as your master. Heavenly god Xiaoxing began to activate the power of his bloodline, and his 3 heavenly venerate spirit treasures began to burn relentlessly. He really was going to go all out this time. Even the slightest loss of his heavenly venerate spirit treasures was extremely distressing to him. Now he discovered that if he didn't do this, he wouldn't be distressed anymore. After all, he was going to die right away, so what was there to be distressed about? I don't know what your true cultivation base is, but the final outcome is that you will die. Heavenly god Xiaoxing let loose an enraged roar before charging toward Yi Tianyan. There was no escape route, and he had to unleash his full power in order to unleash the power of a heavenly god. Yi Tianyan was immediately struck by a sense of pressure. It looked like there was still a huge gap between him and heavenly god Xiaoxing. Only an idiot would attack you head-on. Yi Tianyan didn't plan to engage in a head-on battle from the very beginning. The disparity between their cultivation bases was clear for all to see, and it didn't seem like it was fair and square, but the winner takes all. If he didn't take advantage of his advantages and chose to attack head-on instead, wouldn't that be the behavior of an idiot? His body then flashed, and he disappeared into space to hide there, not planning to come out. It's no use hiding in space. Heavenly god Xiaoxing waved a hand, and a large expanse of space was torn open in an attempt to dig out Yi Tianyan. However, what he tore open was a vast expanse of space, and there was nothing there. Immediately afterward, a figure appeared beside him before unleashing a ferocious attack. Boom! The 2 attacks collided, and both of them were knocked flying. Yi Tianyan was knocked flying the furthest, but he was still in a relatively good condition. Chapter 1546. After unleashing his full power, Heavenly Cultivation Star became far more difficult to deal with than before. It was quite clear that sneak attacks were no longer as easy to deal with. After slaying 2 heavenly gods in quick succession, Heavenly Cultivation Star would really be an idiot if he didn't become cautious. After unleashing his full power, Heavenly Cultivation Star quickly launched a frenzied attack toward Yi Tianyan. Each and every one of his attacks was lethal and lethal. Yi Tianyan could only quickly evade to the side. He didn't dare to face Heavenly Cultivation Star head-on. There was a massive gap between him and Heavenly Cultivation Star, and he would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought head-on. I either have to stall for time, or I have to run. He only had 2 choices now. If he continued to stall for time, Heavenly Cultivation Star would definitely be exhausted. Heavenly Cultivation Star was unleashing his full power, so he definitely wouldn't be able to last much longer. However, he really didn't know how long he would be able to last. At the very least, Yi Tianyan could only just barely evade under the relentless barrage of attacks. He would occasionally be struck, and he felt like his body was about to be torn apart. The other choice was to run. If he ran, he would still be able to escape from a heavenly god. After weighing the pros and cons, Yi Tianyan could only choose to run. It looked like Heavenly Cultivation Star wouldn't be exhausted anytime soon. If he was forced into a corner, then it would be extremely troublesome. He immediately fled to the side at his fastest speed, leaving Heavenly Cultivation Star in the dust. Don't even think about getting away. Heavenly Cultivation Star caught up to him at an even faster speed. He didn't want Yi Tianyan to get away. If he did, then he would really be screwed. After all, if Yi Tianyan went back and told the Great Devis about this, then he would definitely be screwed. Even if there was no evidence, the Great Devis would definitely trust his disciple rather than him. The distance between Yi Tianyan and Yi Tianyan was quickly shortened. and he quickly threw out 3 celestial master spirit treasures towards Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyun's heart sank. There was no way for him to evade now, so he could only face them head-on. There was a lot of spatial turbulence around them, so he didn't dare to use teleportation to escape. Open! Yi Tianyan erupted with his full strength. He brandished his long spear and smashed it out. 3 Empyrean spirit treasures flew over and collided with his attack. Boom! A violent collision directly bombarded him, sending him flying. He tumbled a few times, his internal organs tumbling, and he felt as if they were going to shift positions. He quickly healed himself, twisted his body, and fled to another area. Suddenly, the surrounding void began to distort and then rapidly collapse. A giant spatial rift appeared. Then the violent space turbulence sucked them in. They didn't even have the chance to struggle before they were sucked in. Yi Tianyan only felt a pulling force coming from below. In an instant he felt like he was being swallowed, completely submerged in the space turbulence. He felt that no matter what he did, he would not be able to break free from this place. As for teleportation, there was no reaction at all. He was completely locked in by the spatial turbulence. Spatial turbulence. Heavenly God Xiuxing's heart jolted upon seeing this, and he immediately turned to flee into the distance. He might be able to escape from normal spatial turbulence, but there was no way to escape from this place. This spatial turbulence was simply too vast. If he was sucked into it, he would be dead for sure. Even if he didn't die, who knew where he would be teleported to? If he was teleported to a remote corner or a dangerous area, he wouldn't even know how to get out. So he immediately gave up on killing Yi Tianyan and turned around to run away. Moreover, according to this situation, there is no need for him to do anything. Yi Tianyan will die here. Why would he need to do anything? Since you're here, then don't leave. Yi Tianyan suddenly unleashed a spear, and energy surged toward him as if it had taken a substantial form. Let go of me. Heavenly God Xiuxing waved his weapon in rage to disperse the energy surging toward him. Yi Tianyan's attack was naturally unable to stop him, but it could buy him some time. Even if it was only a few seconds, it would be enough. This was the situation he was in right now. After buying him some time, the spatial turbulence quickly swept toward him and dragged him in. Now, even Heavenly God Xiuxing had been dragged in, and both of them were trapped. Why, you little bastard! Heavenly God Xiuxing wanted to throw up a mouthful of blood. Never would he have thought that he would be dragged in here. He had almost escaped just then, only to be dragged back here. Now both of them had been dragged into this spatial turbulence. Didn't you want to chase me just then? I'm giving you a chance now. Why don't you come in together and chase me? Yi Tianyan smiled. The spatial turbulence around them began to twist and warp, and an extremely dangerous feeling surged toward them from all directions. However, he wasn't afraid at all. What could he be afraid of? He had been reborn. If you want to die, then die. Why did you drag me into this? Heavenly God Xiuxing wanted to kill Enlin, but in this spatial turbulence, they were all separated and swept all the way to the very bottom. This was like a vortex that would constantly drag people into it, until they reached the very bottom. At that time, the fate that awaited them, whether they would live or die, was really unknown. I don't want to die, and I won't die. Yi Tianyan pointed at him. You're dead for sure. Remember to say goodbye to them when you go to hell. Your other friends will be joining you soon. At the very least, I won't die before you die. Heavenly God Xiuxing was enraged, and he charged toward Yi Tianyan with all his might. He wanted to kill Yi Tianyan before he died. Yi Tianyan smiled faintly, but he couldn't even be bothered to move. Heavenly God Xiuxing's attack was quickly torn apart by the spatial turbulence, so it couldn't even touch him. Not to mention the fact that their attacks were being torn apart, even their bodies were starting to crumble. They could clearly sense a terrifying tearing force that was about to tear them into dust. This was undoubtedly a spatial turbulence of death, not some kind of spatial turbulence that could sweep people away. If they were teleported to another area, they would still have a chance at survival. However, they were being torn apart, which was completely different. This spatial turbulence has only just begun, so it's not the type of spatial turbulence that can be easily teleported out of. Tianyan immediately knew that this spatial turbulence was going to tear them apart. Chapter 1547. Even a heavenly god would be dead for sure if they were swept into such a terrifying spatial turbulence of death. In particular, such a massive spatial turbulence was far more powerful than the ones in the outside world. It was at least a dozen times more powerful than the ones in the outside world. Even a normal heavenly god wouldn't be able to escape from such terrifying destructive power. As such, heavenly god Xiaoxing was also unable to escape. No matter how he struggled, it was all pointless. In the face of such terrifying spatial turbulence of death, he would be ground to dust. What a pity. Your attacks won't work here. I won't even be able to die in front of you. Tianyan seems to be fixed in the turbulence. He can't even twist his body. As for flying, he can't move at all. It was as if he had been swept away by the waves. No matter how good his swimming skills were, he could only be swept away by the waves. Not only Tianyan, but even heavenly god Xiaoxing was completely immobilized. As for attacking, even if he could, it wouldn't work. You're going to die in front of me. Heavenly god Xiaoxing's eyes were bloodshot as his 3 heavenly venerate spirit treasures enshrouded his body. Tianyan can see that this is his final struggle. He can only hold on for a while at most. He can't hold on for too long. In the face of such terrifying spatial turbulence of death, he would still be ground to dust. He was doing this because he wanted to see Tianyan die before him. He wanted to live a little longer. Is that so? You'll know when the time comes. Tianyan also unleashed his own power to protect himself. His previous moves were useless here. What invincibility? What defense? In reality, this was only true for those with lower cultivation bases. In the face of this spatial turbulence, there was still a huge disparity. If he could withstand the spatial turbulence, that would mean that he would be able to easily withstand a powerful attack from a heavenly god. If that was the case, he would have used it a long time ago. As time passed by, they were quickly dragged down into the spatial turbulence. The outcome was already set in stone, and there was nothing they could do to change it. Heavenly god Xiaoxing only hoped that he could survive. After all, as long as the spatial turbulence stabilized, he would have a chance to survive. Even if he was teleported to a dangerous area, he still had a chance to survive. Therefore, he did not give up the last bit of hope. Tianyan had been reborn, and although he wasn't afraid, he didn't want to be torn apart so quickly. If he was reborn, he would be torn apart again, and that feeling wouldn't be good. Soon, the 2 of them were finally swept to the bottom. A terrifying tearing force came from all directions. Tianyan could feel this terrifying power. If his cultivation was any lower, or if his physique was any weaker, he would have long been torn to pieces. He was only able to persevere until now because of the support of his powerful bloodline. Heavenly god Xiaoxing wasn't in a much better state. He didn't think that Tianyan would be able to hold on for so long. However, both of them looked on with bloodshot eyes and didn't say anything. Now that it was the most critical moment, how could he have the strength to speak? He could only try his best to preserve his life. Finally, when they reached the bottom, the spatial turbulence swallowed them up, and the 2 of them were completely sucked in. The barrier around Tianyan's body was completely torn apart after a short while. Immediately afterward, his body was engulfed inch by inch, and the excruciating pain surged straight into his head. Tianyan felt as if he would rather die than live, but he was able to persevere through his immense willpower. However, just because he was able to repress the pain didn't mean that his body wouldn't disappear. Even with his powerful regenerative abilities, he would still be torn to pieces. As for heavenly god Xiaoxing, he had more treasures, so he had the upper hand. This allowed him to persevere for a while longer. He felt extremely elated as he watched Tianyan being torn apart bit by bit. I told you that you would die sooner. A sinister expression appeared on his face. Even if he were to die, he would die after Tianyan. However, not long after that, the barrier around his body was also torn apart, and his body was also torn to pieces. He was still persevering with all his might. As long as his soul wasn't destroyed, there was a chance for him to be reborn. Both of them persevered. Before they knew it, their bodies had become blurry. and they felt as if they had been swept into a peculiar space. After the two of them completely disappeared, the spatial turbulence gradually shrank before completely disappearing, as if nothing had ever existed. In another space and time, Heavenly God Xiaoxing's entire body was blurry and indistinct. Only a small portion of his soul remained. I am not dead. Heavenly God Xiaoxing discovered that he was in a special space. He didn't know what kind of space this was, but he knew that he wasn't dead. As long as his soul was still present, he would be able to reconstruct his body and return to his original state. His body had been destroyed, and he would have to rest for several thousand years before he could return to his peak condition. Hence, even if he didn't die, he would still be half crippled. Haha, that little brat is dead for sure, but I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I survived this spatial turbulence. He wanted to laugh to his heart's content. After all, it was a good thing that he was still alive. However, he only had half a head left, so he couldn't even speak. It was already a good thing that he was still alive. Immediately afterward, energy began to emanate from his soul to reconstruct his body bit by bit. If he was disturbed now, he would also be dead for sure. Even though he was still alive, that didn't mean that he could be reborn right away. This process was extremely taxing, especially since he only had half a head left. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to recover very quickly even if he was missing an arm or a leg. However, he only had half a head left, so it was already very fortunate that he could recover slowly. In his current state, even a small child could smash him into a pulp. When his head was completely reconstructed, and he was about to reconstruct his body, a figure suddenly appeared before him. After taking a closer look, he discovered that it was none other than Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyan appeared before him, completely unscathed, and he looked at him with a very friendly smile. You really are a lucky bastard. You managed to survive even under such circumstances. However, it's a pity that you're going to die soon. A faint smile appeared on Yi Tianyan's face, and it looked like the smile of a demon. How are you still alive? Heavenly God Xiaoxing was astonished. Even if Enlin had survived as long as he had, how could he have recovered so quickly? His cultivation base was higher than Yi Tianyun's, so he would definitely be able to recover faster. Now that Yi Tianyan had made such a complete recovery, how could he not be scared? Chapter 1548. Of course, Yi Tianyan didn't die. In fact, he was still alive and kicking. His initial state was actually similar to Heavenly God Xiaoxing's. Both of them were in a half-crippled state, but after being reborn from the flames, he immediately became lively again. Rebirth from the flames didn't have to be triggered by death. It could also be triggered when one was on the brink of death. After being triggered, one could immediately be reborn and return to their original state. He was very satisfied with this divine skill. As such, he wasn't worried at all, let alone that he would die. However, there was something unexpected, which was that the power of his soul had increased. It had reached the level of the heavenly venerable initial stage in one go. This could be considered an unexpected surprise. He reckoned that it had improved bit by bit when he was enduring the tearing force. Forcing himself to persevere gave him a feeling that his soul power was being tempered. As such, he was able to make rapid breakthroughs and successfully break through to the level of the heavenly venerable stage. This speed was indeed enviable, but Yi Tianyan didn't want to experience this feeling. It was simply too painful. The feeling of being torn apart bit by bit was too intense, and it was not easy to persevere. As such, even though he was making breakthroughs at an astonishing speed, he still didn't want to experience this feeling. This was an effect obtained by dying, so the improvement would definitely be astonishing. He would die if he wasn't careful. He might be able to be reborn, but who knew if there would be any accidents? Sometimes, rebirth wasn't omnipotent. For example, if he was reborn, he would immediately die, and then be reborn again. If this continued, he would run out of crazy points. How would he be reborn then? As such, he wouldn't do things that were too dangerous. He had too many things on his shoulders now. No, impossible, your cultivation base is so low, how could you be fine? Heavenly God Xiaoxing could speak again after recovering his mouth. The truth is right before my eyes. Believe it or not, It has nothing to do with me. However, I would like to see who the mastermind behind you is. Tianyan grabbed the old man's head and started searching his soul. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult to search the soul of a heavenly god. A heavenly god's soul was very powerful, and his cultivation base was even more powerful. A slight backlash could kill him, so how could he dare to search his soul? However, things were different now. Heavenly god Xiaoxing was in a half-crippled state, and his soul was also half-crippled. How was he supposed to retaliate? Under Tianyan's forceful soul-searching, surging energy quickly surged into his brain, and he began to crazily search his soul. Heavenly cultivation star began to struggle, but he was unable to put up any resistance aside from howling with all his might. The memories in his mind began to be quickly extracted. Some could be searched, and some could not. Soul search was the most common martial art, but it was also the martial art with the most loopholes. To put it bluntly, it wasn't complete enough. As such, when Zhang Xian tried to search someone's soul, he would only be able to obtain a small portion of it. Unless the other party didn't struggle at all, it would still be very difficult to search the other party's soul. Because of this, the memories Tianyan obtained were all fragmented. He didn't really care about that. As long as he could obtain a portion of Heavenly Cultivation Star's memories, that would be enough. At the very least, he would be able to find out what Heavenly Cultivation Star was up to. Moments later, Heavenly Cultivation Star frothed at the mouth, and he appeared to be half unconscious. After such a casual soul search, his soul was severely injured. Even though he didn't become an idiot, he looked no different from an idiot. Well, there are still a lot of things that I don't understand, but I know a lot now. Tianyan stood up and raised his foot to stomp on Heavenly Cultivation Star's head. Bang! Heavenly Cultivation Star's head exploded. Ding! Successfully killed Heavenly Cultivation Star. Received 6 million compressed EXP, 50,000 compressed CPS, 40,000 compressed SPS. Obtained Cultivation Star Spirit Treasure, Lesser Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure. Heaven Cultivation Spirit Treasure, Intermediate Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure. Cloud Cultivation Spirit Treasure, Upper Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure. Heaven Cultivation God Realm Map. Obtained additional reward of 50,000 compressed CPS. He was extremely satisfied with the explosive EXP he obtained again, which was why he didn't want to let them go. How could he not eat a piece of meat that was delivered to his mouth? It was just that it was a bit difficult to kill Heavenly Cultivation Star, but the heavens were really helping him now. Not only that, but he also obtained some information. Immediately after, he shifted his gaze to the surroundings and discovered that there were chains in the sky. It was not the ordinary blue sky, nor was it the planets outside. What he saw was a chain that sealed off the entire sky. An oppressive power came from above, making him feel a bit uncomfortable. Where is this place? Tianyan looked at the chain above him and started to analyze it with his appraisal eye. Heavenly Tao Shackles. Seals all the power of the Heavenly Tao, suppressing one's cultivation base, making it impossible to break through. Tianyan was really shocked after investigating it. He didn't expect this kind of thing to exist. It sealed off the entire space, and it was mainly used to suppress one's cultivation base. His cultivation base was still at the lesser heavenly venerable realm, but he knew that it was definitely not to suppress one's cultivation base, but to make it impossible to break through. The teleportation divine stone can't be used either. Tianyan's brows furrowed. He didn't think that the place he had been teleported to would be so special that even the teleportation divine stone couldn't be used. The teleportation divine stone had always been his life-saving divine stone. As long as he hid, he could easily escape to another area and no one would be able to stop him. However, things were different now. He could only use it successfully if the space around him wasn't sealed off, and he was relatively safe. His cultivation base was too low in the past, and the enemies he faced were too weak, so he naturally couldn't use it to seal off the area. Now that he was facing heavenly venerates and heavenly gods, the teleportation divine stone was immediately useless and couldn't be used as an escape tool. He could only use things like instant teleportation to escape to a safe area. Looks like I'll have to find a way out of this place. Tianyan thought for a moment, then rushed up to the heavenly Dao shackles. But when he rushed up to the heavenly Dao shackles, he was bounced back as if he hit a hard wall. This was not unexpected. He knew that it wouldn't be so easy to break through. But he didn't think that there wouldn't even be a single crack. Open for me. Tianyan took out the 5-dragon divine spear and fiercely stabbed at the heavenly Dao shackles. But with a loud bang, even with his full strength, he was unable to break open a single crack. Instead, the power of his attack was repelled, sending him flying back. Chapter 1549. There's no effect? Tianyan's heart sank. He had already used his full power, an attack that could even injure a heavenly deity. However, it could do nothing to the heavenly Dao shackles. Instead, it reflected the force of his attack, making him dizzy. Blood leaked out of the webbing between his thumb and index finger, and he nearly lost his grip on the 5-dragon divine spear. Just thinking about it made Xiaochen feel uncomfortable. He had to bear the majority of the force of his attack. Clearly, the level of the heavenly Dao shackles was not something he could break. Furthermore, the heavenly Dao shackles did not belong to the category of divine seals. Hence, with Xiaochen's current level as a divine inscriber, not to mention rank 6 or rank 7, even a rank 9 divine inscriber would be useless. As the name suggested, the heavenly Dao shackles could lock out heavenly Dao energy. Without heavenly Dao energy, there would be no heavenly tribulation or heavenly Dao energy. Normally, those who used heavenly Dao energy would need it when they broke through to the star venerate level. Without heavenly Dao energy, it would be hard to break through. This was like an earth monarch. They needed heavenly Dao energy to cultivate, and even snatched heavenly Dao energy from the heavenly tribulation to raise their strength. This was like snatching resources from the heavens, continuously snatching heavenly Dao energy. Now that Xiaochen no longer had heavenly Dao energy, how could he cultivate? It looks like there is no way to destroy this place. Tianyan turned his head to look to the side. He immediately saw a city in the distance. As for the actual situation, he just had to go over and ask. Following that, Xiaochen flew to the edge of the city and quickly descended, heading inside. When he arrived at the bottom of the city, he saw many cultivators coming and going. Their cultivations were relatively low. Tianyan casually looked around and saw that the strongest cultivator was only a void spirit stage cultivator. This was the cultivation that Xiaochen had seen in the Fanyu a long time ago. Back then, this cultivation had been very strong. If he continued to break through, he would have become a holy king. It was just that he had seen too much. His cultivation level was really not enough to look at. He only needed to use his soul sense to see the whole picture of this place clearly. He also knew how strong the cultivators inside were. There were basically all kinds of cultivators here, and there was no discrimination. He followed him directly into the city, and no guard stopped him. There were people coming and going here, and as long as it wasn't someone special, no one would come to stop them. The environment here is not bad. Tianyan looked at the situation on both sides. Most of the things that should be sold were available. It was considered normal. However, there was no heavenly energy here. It was as if he had returned to the place where Fanyu was, making it difficult for him to break through. At the same time, the resources here were quite limited. Some of them were Fanyu level, but there were basically no high-level resources. After carefully looking around, there was nothing strange about the overall situation, except that the security was quite tight. However, it was not the cultivators who were guarding this place. Instead, it was the people on the city wall outside who kept staring outside. It was unknown what they were on guard against. Then his figure flashed and disappeared. At the same time, in the city lord's room at the center of the city, City Lord Wu was reading a book. At this time, a voice sounded in his ear. "You are the city lord here, right?" City Lord Wu was shocked and turned his head to look over. He didn't know when a young man was sitting next to him and looking at him, but he didn't notice it at all. "Yes, I am the city lord here. May I know why you came to my Dongyue city, sir?" City Lord Wu quickly suppressed his shock and changed his attitude to one of respect. He was the strongest here, which was the void spirit stage. Since he could easily come to his side and sit down to look at him, he believed that his cultivation must be higher than him. Since that was the case, he would definitely not be so impulsive and scold the person who came. He knew that if the other party wanted him dead, he would definitely do it secretly. So he acted very calmly and showed the demeanor that a city lord should have. I happened to pass by here and would like to ask you something. Yi Tianyan saw that City Lord Wu calmed down so quickly, and felt that he was quite a character. May I know what you want to ask, sir? I will answer all I know. City Lord Wu smiled. I want to know when the heavenly Tao shackles above were formed. Yi Tianyan pointed up and asked. Those things are called heavenly Tao shackles? City Lord Wu shook his head and said. As for how they formed, I'm not very clear. They seem to have appeared a long time ago, and have been there for a long time. Yi Tianyan looked at City Lord Wu. It was obvious that he couldn't know the details. He didn't even know about the heavenly Tao shackles, so what information could he get from him? Appeared a long time ago? Yi Tianyan continued to ask. Yes, appeared a long time ago, but we really don't know when exactly it appeared. City Lord Wu shook his head and said. Then do you feel anything strange? Yi Tianyan asked. Strange? What can be strange? If there is anything special, there is one. Report. At this time, the guards rushed in from outside. When they saw Yi Tianyan inside, they were stunned. They were clearly guarding outside and didn't see anyone come in. Why was there suddenly someone here? Is it the mutated race? City Lord Wu said coldly. Why yes, it's the mutated race. The guards reacted and quickly nodded. Sir, I'm very sorry, but I have something important to do now. If you want to ask anything else, please wait until we chase the mutated race away. After saying that, City Lord Wu cupped his hands apologetically to Yi Tianyan, turned around and flew out. Mutated race? Yi Tianyan thought for a moment, and flew out with City Lord Wu. When he followed them out of the main city, he immediately saw that there were many evil spirit races attacking from outside the city walls. The few arms on their backs were their symbols. However, their cultivation was not high. They were all around the void spirit stage, and there were even lower levels. As soon as they arrived, they laughed loudly and swept over, grabbing cultivators one by one and devouring them. It's actually the evil spirit race. Yi Tianyan's eyes darkened. He didn't expect to see such things here. After they attacked, they kept grabbing cultivators to devour, and the guards' defense was basically useless. Their cultivation was too far apart, so how could they resist? However, they could only brace themselves and resist. They rushed up one by one and slashed as many times as they could. After City Lord Wu charged out, he took out a large saber and roared, "A bunch of trash, come and die!" Chapter 1550. City Lord Wu rushed in all directions, wanting to kill the evil spirit race. However, just as he reached there, he was blocked by a powerful evil spirit race, not allowing him to attack. "I'll play with you." The evil spirit race mocked and intercepted him. City Lord Wu attacked crazily, but they were all easily blocked by the evil spirit race without any pressure. After blocking several times, the evil spirit race was a little tired of playing. It smiled and said, "I'm tired of playing. It's time to devour." Following that, the evil spirit race pounced over, and its speed instantly surpassed City Lord Wu's. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of City Lord Wu and waved its claws, wanting to tear City Lord Wu into several pieces. At this critical moment, City Lord Wu's figure flashed and barely dodged the attack. However, a large piece of his arm was torn off, and it was almost torn off along with his arm. Huff huff huff. City Lord Wu quickly retreated and dodged to the side. Cold sweat had already seeped out of his forehead, drenching his clothes. The sense of danger of death made him gasp for air. This feeling was truly uncomfortable. He had almost been torn into several pieces. The strength of this generation's City Lord is not bad, but it ends here. The evil spirit race pounced over again, wanting to devour City Lord Wu. City Lord Wu's expression changed. He wanted to quickly dodge, but how could his speed compare to the evil spirit race's? In the next moment, the evil spirit race opened its huge mouth to devour him. When he felt this sense of danger, his face turned pale, and his heart was filled with despair. He did not expect to die just like that. Other than despair, he was even more unwilling. At this moment, a figure flew over and grabbed the evil spirit race's head, fixing it in the air. Following that, a wave of energy frantically entered the evil spirit race's head, as if it was searching for something. My lord? City Lord Wu was immediately stunned when he saw it clearly. The person who suddenly appeared to save him was Yi Tianyun, who had appeared in his room earlier. At this moment, Yi Tianyun must have rushed over to save him. He had been at odds with the evil spirit race from the very beginning, so when he saw the evil spirit race, he naturally had to exterminate it. However, he did not immediately kill the evil spirit race in his hands. Instead, he began to frantically search his soul, wanting to understand the general situation. Under his powerful soul, the other party did not even have the chance to struggle, and all of his memories were obediently confessed. Immediately afterwards, the bodies of the evil spirit race in the other areas suddenly trembled and exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Pa. They exploded one after another. Some of the guards who were blocking didn't even understand what was going on before they saw the evil spirit race explode in front of them. Not long later, all of the invading evil spirit race exploded, dyeing the entire area red, making it look rather bloody. The group of guards and cultivators were dumbfounded. No one knew what was going on. Following that, the evil spirit race in Yi Tianyun's hand was thrown into the air by him. With a pung sound, it exploded into a bloody mist in the air. Just like the other evil spirit race, it could not be more dead. So that's how it is. However, minions are still minions. They still know too little. Yi Tianyun frowned. The contents of the memories he had obtained from the search were still too little. This level was simply too low, so the information he knew was naturally very little. City Lord Wu, who was at the side, was stunned. He never thought that this mysterious person would be so strong. Seeing this technique, he knew that the outsider at the side was killed by Yi Tianyun. However, Yi Tianyun didn't even move and killed them all. This kind of strength caused him to be dumbfounded. He really couldn't imagine what kind of cultivation level he had to be able to do this. My lord, thank you for your help. City Lord Wu immediately knelt on the ground. How could he still dare to stand? Actually, he was more worried that after killing the outsider he would kill them. He didn't know why Yi Tianyun had come, so he could only think of the worst. Get up. Yi Tianyun reached into the void and pulled him up. He said calmly, don't worry. The outsider you mentioned is also my enemy. I have no ill intentions towards you. On the contrary, I'm here to help you. Help us. City Lord Wu's eyes were filled with joy when he heard this. Then thank you, my lord. There's no need to say anything else. These outsider tribes only attack after a period of time? Yi Tianyun asked. Yes, every time they attack after a long period of time. Every time they come, they will devour quite a number of people. However, they won't kill us all. They will only let us go after devouring about half of the people. City Lord Wu said angrily. Dongyue City has had countless city lords. Every time, they devour the city lord. If not for my lord's help, I'm afraid I would also be dead. Every time, we are powerless to resist. Even if we want to escape, it's useless. The situation in the other cities is the same. They will only stop after more than half of their people are killed. This kind of feeling is like livestock being reared in captivity, right? Yi Tianyun interrupted to help. Yes. City Lord Wu felt a little awkward. He didn't want to say it out loud. It was too unpleasant to hear. It gave him this kind of feeling. In fact, it's like this. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes. After searching their souls, he had a rough idea of the situation here. They were like livestock being reared in captivity. Every time they were fattened up, they would come to devour a wave of people. Rearing them in captivity and devouring them would be extremely beneficial. This was because the cultivators here had relatively low cultivation levels, but their bloodlines were all of a relatively good level. They could even be linked to ancient bloodlines. That's right, this group of cultivators was the possessor of ancient bloodlines. After absorbing the ancient heavenly venerate bloodline, he found that the concentration of their bloodline was not low. It could be said that it was an ancient bloodline. The effect of devouring it was undoubtedly a little stronger. In that case, everything made sense. This place was sealed by the heavenly Tao shackles to prevent their cultivation from advancing by leaps and bounds. Otherwise, it would be much more difficult to devour them. In the end, the area that Tianyan was swept into was actually a captive space. A space that was kept in captivity by a grade 5 god realm. As expected, the evil spirit race has some power in the grade 5 god realm. No wonder they are so arrogant. Tianyan recalled the time when he fought the evil spirit race in the outer god realm. Even the leader of the evil spirit race said that he was dead for sure. Now it seemed that facing a grade 5 god realm was really like hitting a rock with an egg. He had never been there, so he didn't know what kind of existence there was in a grade 5 god realm. However, it was very likely that there were many ancient heavenly gods alive. Chapter 1551. In the outside world, they all thought that the ancient bloodline, which was in existence with a relatively high concentration of bloodlines, had already become a legend or extremely rare. From the looks of it, it wasn't rare at all. It was completely trapped here and raised in captivity. After fattening for a period of time, he would devour a wave to increase the strength of the evil spirit race. The evil spirit race that was sent over were all very talented. After absorbing these bloodlines, they would undoubtedly become even more astonishing. To put it bluntly, it was a bit like the hunting ground of the evil spirit race's geniuses. When the number of livestock here increased, they could come over and harvest a wave. In this world, there were several large cities, and the total number of people was not considered high. However, with the combination of resources, the number of cultivators would still slowly increase. After accumulating to a certain extent, they would start to be hunted. However, as time passed, the bloodline would slowly become thinner. There was no doubt about this. If he wanted to increase the density and strength of his bloodline, he could only stabilize it by increasing his cultivation. Only by carrying on the family line would he be able to become stronger or denser. However, their cultivations were all fixed, and they were unable to break through to the Star Lord or Earth Lord realm. How could the density of their bloodline be dense? Therefore, this group of people would definitely become very ordinary existences in the end. However, this process was still rather long, enough for them to devour for a long time. It's very possible that there are other similar areas. Tianyan looked at the surrounding space. The cultivators in this area were limited to a certain cultivation level, and it was very likely that the other areas would be restricted to a higher level. This was truly equivalent to livestock. Different levels could be devoured by different levels of evil spirit race. Just thinking about it made one's hair stand on end. It was truly terrifying. When their strength increases, I'm afraid the second battle of the Divine Lord will be getting closer and closer. Tianyan believed that it was very likely that a second battle of the Divine Lord would occur. How could those old fogies be willing? There must be some kind of power restraining them, which was why they did not immediately attack. If there was no power restraining them, he believed that with their personalities, they would have already killed their way out. Outsiders? Thinking about it carefully, they really can be called outsiders. Tianyan knew that it was not only the evil spirit race, there were also other races that could not be considered his own race. Perhaps the demon race and the human race were hostile to each other, but these two races were friendly to other races. As for the evil spirit race, they were very sorry. Other than their own race, the rest were all enemies. Immediately, Tianyan swept his gaze over them. He definitely had to rescue these people. Moreover, they all had ancient bloodlines. If they joined his faction, the results would be obvious after a period of nurturing. Sir, is there anything else? City Lord Wu felt goosebumps when he saw Tianyan staring at him. I told you to contact the other city lords and prepare to evacuate at any time, Tianyan said. Prepare to evacuate? City Lord Wu was startled. We can't leave this place. No matter where we go, it's sealed. I will break the seal here. When the time comes, I will take you to a safe place and arrange a good place for you to stay. Tianyan smiled. This. City Lord Wu knelt down with a thud and said excitedly, Thank you, my lord. I will contact the other city lords now and get them to gather. These cities were separated, so that it would be easier to collect resources. After all, it was such a vast area. If they were too far away, it would be difficult to collect resources. Their cultivation was on the low side, and it would take a long time to travel back and forth. That was why they were separated into several cities. Otherwise, they would not be able to easily collect resources to improve themselves. No matter how much they improved, they would not be able to break through. If a Star Lord was sent over, they would be completely destroyed. They could only work hard to fatten themselves up and then be slaughtered by others. Following this, Tianyan flew away. He would leave the rest to City Lord Wu. He believed that he would definitely be able to handle it well. Even if the other city lords did not believe in Tianyan, they would listen to City Lord Wu. More importantly, it was a form of hope. In any case, they would rather believe than not. This was a chance of survival. As long as they could escape, they would do it. They would also be slaughtered here. Even if they risked their lives, they would still be slaughtered. It was better to risk it and still have a chance of survival. After Tianyan flew away, he quickly flew to the important area here, the Heavenlock Altar. The Heavenlock Altar was hidden at the edge, and with their cultivation, they could not see it at all. Not only did the Heavenlock Altar control the energy of the heavenly Tao shackles, it was also a passage for outsiders. To put it bluntly, they could also leave from here. In other words, he would be able to escape from this place with them. He wouldn't even need to break the shackles of the heavenly Tao. However, he had to do this for the sake of intimidating them. If he wanted this group of people to successfully join and become loyal, there was no doubt that he would need extremely powerful strength to save them. Simply saving them might be able to move them, but if there was another powerful person to save them, they would be even more obedient. Strength could conquer everyone. These words were not nonsense. Inside the Heavenlock Altar, there were two middle-level Empyreans guarding it. They were both experts of the evil spirit race, sitting here with nothing to do. They're too slow. Why aren't they back yet? One of the Empyreans was very dissatisfied. They had been gone for a while, but they still hadn't returned. They were waiting for the group of disciples that they had sent out to return and seal off the passage here. Then their mission would be completed. If they wanted to open this passage, they still needed to open it. Otherwise, they wouldn't even bother to come here. I guess these animals have been fattened up too much. Didn't we put in more resources recently? They must have thought that they could make a comeback, but they didn't know that it was us who did it on purpose, allowing them to reproduce faster. What a bunch of fools. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, their eyes filled with ridicule. They felt that these cultivators were truly pitiful, waiting for them to slaughter and eat them. As expected of the evil spirit race, their thoughts are truly disgusting. A figure appeared at the side, causing them to be shocked. They hurriedly turned their heads to look, only to see an afterimage flash past their eyes. Soon after, they felt their bodies turn cold, and discovered that their bodies had been torn into pieces, leaving only their heads behind. Immediately after, their heads were held in the hands of a human, and the soul-searching technique was quickly activated, continuously digging out the memories in their heads. Human. They were stunned. When they saw that the one who killed them was a human, they didn't know what had happened. Chapter 1552. Tianyan frantically searched their memories. The two heavenly venerates did not even have the slightest resistance, and were easily subdued by him. As his cultivation increased, dealing with middle heavenly venerates was no different from dealing with the Lord of Heaven to him. Especially under the suppression of the super heavenly venerate title, they did not even have the slightest resistance. The evil spirit race guards at the side were stunned when they saw this. After they reacted, they all rushed over. Tianyan looked at them coldly and exploded at the side, turning into piles of blood mist. The cultivation of these guards was relatively low, only at the star venerate level. To him, he did not even need to do anything. One look was enough to make them explode. After eliminating these guards, he would be able to focus on searching their souls. There were no strong guards here. There were no experts here in the first place, and there was nothing important here. Naturally, it was impossible to send experts over. These two middle heavenly venerates were here to help open the door. After closing the door, these star venerate guards stayed here to manage the situation. As the experts here were generally not strong, it was more than enough to have a few star venerate guards here. There is still too little effective information. Tianyun crushed his two heads and frowned. He still could not find much effective information in the memories of these heavenly venerates. They knew too little, but at least they knew what faction it was. As for the details of the internal situation, these heavenly venerates could not reach them. If he wanted to understand more, he would undoubtedly need to capture a heaven deity, an elder. Otherwise, he would not be able to find effective information. Then he ignored this group of people and turned to walk down the heaven lock altar. After passing through a long tunnel, there was a huge square formation below. This was the main formation of the heavenly Tao shackles outside. As long as this square formation was broken, the heavenly Tao shackles outside would naturally disappear. The effect of this square formation was to isolate the heavenly Tao energy, which was why the heavenly Tao shackles appeared. This was the brilliance of it. There was no way to break it outside, but the true location was inside the heaven lock altar. The two were related, but also not. After all, the main purpose of this square formation was to block all the heavenly Tao energy outside. Under such circumstances, it would cause the heavenly Tao shackles to appear. The shackles of the Tao of heaven were not created by the square formation, but because of it. This square array is at the upper 7th rank. The person who set it up is no ordinary person either. Tianyun looked at the array. Actually, he could set it up, but he was too lazy to do so. To him, it was meaningless. He had no interest in captivity, only in destroying the evil spirit race's plan. Immediately after, he began to destroy the formation cores one by one. Fortunately, his grade was not low. Otherwise, he would not have been able to destroy them in a short period of time. Soon, under his destruction, the square formation was completely overturned. After the square formation was destroyed, the shackles of the heavenly Tao gradually disappeared, never to be seen again. After the heavenly shackles disappeared, waves of astonishing heavenly Tao energy surged over from all directions and entered the bodies of many cultivators. Quick, look, the wall above us is gone. Yes. If the wall is really gone, doesn't that mean that we can escape? Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and escape. Hurry up and leave this damned place. I don't want to see those outsiders anymore. When the cultivators saw that the heavenly Tao shackles had disappeared, they all rushed up, wanting to escape this place. However, before they could leave, a city lord immediately stopped them. Everyone, calm down. This was broken by an expert. We have to wait for that expert to come. That expert said that he would bring us to a safe place. If we run away casually, I think we will be caught by those outsiders very quickly. The city lord's words calmed them down. They were about to go crazy, so when they saw that the wall above them had disappeared, they could finally escape. However, this was only a small portion of them who could escape, because most of them could not fly, so how could they escape? It was not just this city. The city lords of the other cities also told them not to move and to wait for the arrival of the experts. At this moment, all the city lords believed that Tianyun could bring them away. When City Lord Wu went to tell them before, none of them believed him. Now it was different. The heavenly Tao shackles that had trapped them had disappeared, so they naturally believed him immediately. They believed that if even the heavenly Tao shackles could be broken, then it would not be difficult for him to bring them away. After following Tianyun, he quickly arrived at Dongyue City. He found that a group of cultivators had already packed their things and were waiting for him. Sir, they have already packed their things and brought everything they could with them. May I know where Sir is heading to now? City Lord Wu hurried over, the shock in his heart reaching an extreme level. Initially, he was skeptical, not knowing if Tianyun could break the heavenly Tao shackles. All along, the heavenly Tao shackles had trapped them for too long, making them think that they would never be able to break it in this lifetime. When he saw that the heavenly Tao shackles were really broken, he immediately felt that life was full of hope. Not only him, but the other cultivators too. He felt that he had welcomed a brand new life, as though he had come back to life. Everyone come in here. Yi Tianyan quickly threw out the 10,000 gods pagoda. They definitely could not enter his inner world, so he let them enter the 10,000 gods pagoda. The 10,000 gods pagoda could still carry quite a number of people. At least, it would not be a problem to put them all in. God. Miracle. When they saw the enlarged 10,000 gods pagoda, they were all stunned. They did not expect such a treasure to exist. They followed Yi Tianyan inside, and their hearts were filled with gratitude and awe. How could they not be shocked by such a method? Not to mention them, even if it was someone of Yi Tianyan's cultivation, he would be stunned by such a method. Immediately, Yi Tianyan went to other cities and collected all the cultivators into the myriad divine tower. Needless to say, they were deeply shocked by Yi Tianyan's actions. None of them said a word and walked directly into the 10,000 gods pagoda. After all the cultivators had left, Yi Tianyan set the coordinates and flew out of the spatial zone. After flying out of the spatial zone, he realized that there were still many heavenly Tao shackles outside, which were divided into many regions. He casually looked around and saw that there were at least dozens of regions that were trapped by heavenly Tao shackles of different effects. Chapter 1553. Yi Tianyan was in a daze as he looked at the dozens of breeding grounds. He didn't expect so many people with ancient bloodlines to be trapped here and devoured one by one. It seemed that even though they didn't win the God-Emperor battle, they still managed to snatch a group of people away before retreating. This method was really fast. Clearly, they had even thought of a way out. In order to make a comeback, they had prepared everything. The heavenly energy in this area is so dense. It seems to be a grade 5 God realm area. Yi Tianyan looked around and said, "No, it should belong to the inner space, an independent space that is separated from the rest of the world." There was a stronger aura of a God realm here. But there was no core here, nor was there the natural feeling of the outside God realm. Instead, there was a sense of imprisonment. This was similar to the myriad worlds God realm, where there were countless small worlds. They were all opened up and guided in the heavenly energy from the outside. Thinking about it carefully, it made sense. With so many people with ancient bloodlines here, if they were discovered or tried to escape, it would undoubtedly be very troublesome. Locking them up in a small world was undoubtedly a very wise choice. Correspondingly, Yi Tianyan still couldn't use the teleportation godstone here. After all, this was someone else's space. He couldn't use the teleportation godstone at will. Unless they left this space, there was no way out. From the side, it could be seen that the Almighty who set up this place was definitely of a very high level. In his opinion, the person who set up this place was at least an upper heavenly god, and a grade 8 or grade 9 divine inscriber at that. Then he shifted his gaze to the other heavenly shackles. It seemed that saving them wouldn't be easy. If he wanted to open them up one by one, he would have to barge in one by one. If he saved them all and arranged them in the three realms God realm, his forces would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Thinking about it, they all had ancient bloodlines. Once they broke through, their cultivation would definitely be terrifying. Ancient bloodlines weren't something to be trifled with. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used heavenly shackles to trap them. Let's find a way out first. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. Yi Tianyan was not in a hurry to save them. He wanted to find a way out first. If he didn't find a way out, once a few powerful heavenly gods attacked him, he wouldn't even be able to protect his own life, let alone escape with his men. Yi Tianyan quickly flew to other areas and released his spiritual awareness to the maximum in order to explore the surrounding area. If he wanted to leave, he would have to find the exit or forcefully break through the barrier. The former was the easiest to kill his way out, but it could also be said to be the most difficult. If the guards were strong, it would naturally be difficult for him to break out. The latter was not simple either. This world that had been opened up was not bad in the first place, so how could it be destroyed so easily? Therefore, Yi Tianyan's first choice was naturally the exit. Even if there were experts present, there was still a chance that they could kill their way out if they were to clash head-on. Very quickly, Tianyan found the exit. After carefully inspecting it, he discovered that there were not two strong guards there, but they were not very weak either. Two lower-level heavenly gods. Two lower-level heavenly gods as guards here. It was really a big deal. As expected of a 5th-grade god domain area, the guards were so strong. However, this was an extremely important area, so it was not surprising that heavenly gods would be arranged to guard it. Two heavenly gods? Not bad. Tianyan felt that he could still charge through. As long as there were not a few more guards, there would not be any pressure. Then he set the teleportation coordinates here. The teleportation god stone could not leave this area, but it did not mean that it could not move within this area. This was like a room with a locked door, but it did not mean that one could not walk freely in the room. After investigating clearly, he immediately turned around and flew to other areas. If he looked from the outside, it would be very easy to find the entrance. If he looked from the inside, it would not be easy to find the entrance. Previously, the Heavenlock altar could only be easily found through the memories of the evil spirit race. If he were to find it, it would take some effort. The Heavenlock altar was too hidden, and it had been blessed by a 6th or 7th grade divine carving master, which meant that it was about the same level as him. Under such circumstances, it would naturally not be easy to find it. Let's go here first. Tianyan randomly chose a relatively close one and rushed in one breath. There was actually a door inside and it was completely closed. This door did not need any key. It only needed enough strength to open it. This was why 2 middle-level heavenly venerables were needed. This door needed 2 middle-level heavenly venerables to open together, which was enough to show how much strength was needed to open it. However, this was not a problem for him. He flew over and slammed into the door. With a boom, the door was ruthlessly smashed open. Don't forget, he had the strengthened version of the heaven-shaking divine art, which could make his body rapidly heavier so that he could knock over everything. After the door was smashed open, the guards inside looked over respectfully. They thought that some lord had opened the door and entered. However, when they saw that it was a human, they were all dumbfounded. Tianyan could not be bothered to talk to them, so he killed them with a flip of his hand. Before they died, they never thought that a human would come over. Didn't they say that they were on the same side? After killing the guards, he quickly flew inside and destroyed the square formation inside. Basically, the square formation was more or less the same. The only difference was that there was a bit more strength to increase the effect. Tianyan quickly destroyed the square formation. In less than a moment, the square formation was destroyed. The heaven lock immediately disappeared. Many cultivators inside suddenly raised their heads. When they saw the heaven lock disappear, they really did not know what was going on. I have broken the heavenly Tao shackles, but there are many outsiders out there. If you want to run away, you will have to enter my treasure. Tianyan said to Tianyan. I have broken the heavenly Tao shackles, but there are many outsiders outside. The 10,000 divine pagoda once again became bigger and descended. When many cultivators saw it, they were slightly stunned. Then they all ran in without hesitation. No one would doubt Tianyan's words. Firstly, Tianyan was not from the evil spirit race. Secondly, he helped them destroy the heaven lock. No matter what, he could not be a bad person. If he was a bad person, why would he spend so much effort? Usually, he would come here to kill countless companions. It was impossible for him to play any new tricks. So Tianyan just said one sentence, and they immediately rushed in, and all of a sudden, they all evacuated. They could not be bothered to clean up. Escape first. Chapter 1554. After Tianyan saved an area, he quickly went to the next area to save even more cultivators. Their reactions did not change much. They were all the same as before. After seeing him, they crazily rushed in without any hesitation. They had all suffered the corresponding damage, so they naturally knew what to choose. They had been hunted by the evil spirit race, and now that there was help, they would definitely be here soon. This saved Tianyan a lot of trouble, and he did not need to waste his breath to explain anything. However, with other cultivators around, they would know what to choose after taking a look. Therefore, saving them one by one was not a big problem. Hurry up and come in. There's not much time left. Tianyan had already broken through the 8th one. The square formation of the Heavenlock altar was similar, so it was not difficult to break through. It was mainly because they cooperated well that he was able to save the 8th one so quickly. However, there were still many areas that had not been saved, and there were still many areas that were being held captive. Therefore, he had to be fast enough. Once he was detected and an expert was sent over, it would be difficult for him to continue saving them. Right now, he could save as many as he could. He definitely could not save all of them. He did not believe that this place would be so bad. If he only appeared after saving all of them, then he would really be a bunch of idiots. So this is the problem. At this moment, a figure appeared at the side. A lower-level heavenly god appeared out of thin air. When he saw Tianyan continuously letting cultivators enter the 10,000 divine pagoda, he was stunned. He did not even know what was going on, but there was an extra human here. As the manager of this place, by the time he reacted to what was wrong, 8 areas had already been broken through, and a large number of cultivators had been rescued. The key was that he did not know, so how could a human come in? He did not receive any news at all, nor did he receive any information about the invasion. Everything was so unknown. He did not understand what was going on, but 8 areas had already disappeared. Just a heavenly god. Tianyan saw that the person who came was a heavenly god of the evil spirit race, a patrolman or something like that. Fortunately, there were not a few of them at the same time, otherwise it would really be difficult to deal with. If there was only one, then it would be much easier to deal with. It was practically a free EXP. How dare you, human? How did you get in? The evil spirit race's heavenly god was furious as he tried to grab Tianyan. He wanted to know how Tianyan came in. There was no message from the other side of the passage, but Tianyan managed to sneak in. Actually, Tianyan didn't want this to happen. Who knew that the space could be transferred here? Spatial turbulence was truly unpredictable. One could be teleported to a strange region at any time. It was also possible for one to be teleported to another faction's territory. Everything was filled with the unknown. If it weren't for the spatial turbulence, he wouldn't have known that there were so many cultivators in captivity here. When Tianyan saw that his opponent had not used his full strength, he knew that he had been completely underestimated. This was the advantage of having a weak cultivation base. As long as one didn't know him, they would think that he was just an ordinary lower Empyrean. Under such circumstances, the opponent would definitely not use more than half of his strength. After all, no matter how much strength he used, it was all in vain. With such a huge gap in cultivation, what was the point of spending so much strength? Was he trying to kill a chicken with a butcher's knife? The main thing was that the opponent wanted to catch Tianyan, so it was impossible for him to use his full strength. He wanted to know where Tianyan sneaked in. When the evil spirit heavenly god saw that Tianyan didn't dodge, he thought that Tianyan had given up struggling, so he continued to grab him. Just as the evil spirit heavenly god was about to touch Tianyan's power instantly exploded to the maximum, and the evil spirit heavenly god was already decapitated. Before his consciousness disappeared, he didn't understand what happened, and he was already killed. Thank you for your patronage. Tianyan's voice sounded behind him, and then his head was completely punctured and turned into a pile of blood mist. Heavenly gods were also insta-killed. This was especially so for those who were very stupid, and often underestimated their enemies. They were even more easily insta-killed. Successfully killed evil spirit heavenly god. Reward, 6 million compressed EXP 50. 000 compressed CPS 30. 000 compressed SPS. Obtained evil spirit bloodline, evil spirit blood, evil spirit soul, heavenly lord level. Reward, 100,000 compressed EXP for killing a heavenly god. Obtaining evil spirit bloodline again made Tianyan's eyes light up. His evil spirit puppet has reached its peak, and now he can get this kind of thing again. It means that sneaking into the enemy's forces is not difficult at all. This method is tried and tested, absolutely no one can recognize it, and it allows him to save all the cultivators. Of course, his cultivation is still low. If he appears here, he will definitely be suspected. EXP is so much, one by one stupid heavenly god comes here. That's cool. Tianyan was very satisfied, and continued to signal other cultivators to come in. Those cultivators were stunned. They couldn't see the attack method clearly, but when the evil spirit heavenly god appeared, they felt their legs soften, and they didn't even have the courage to escape. But now it was killed by Tianyan in a second. It is really scary. After killing a heavenly god, other heavenly gods quickly came over. This time, they didn't appear alone but in groups. What's going on? A human actually came in. From the looks of it, it's a lower-level heavenly venerable? When they saw Tianyan, all of them frowned, not understanding what was going on. Why would a human sneak in? Tianyan looked around. 6 heavenly gods appeared in one go, as expected of a grade 5 god realm existence. Heavenly gods are really a common existence, but under the investigation of the appraisal eye, it is clear that the reason why there are so many heavenly gods is because they have absorbed other people's ancient bloodlines. Under the nourishment of such pure bloodlines, how could they not improve by leaps and bounds? Therefore, compared to cultivators outside, it is much easier for them to break through. No matter what the situation is, we will know once we capture him. They didn't think too much, they just wanted to capture Tianyan first. Immediately, 2 heavenly gods surrounded him. The other heavenly gods stood guard at the side, still misled by Tianyan's cultivation. With this kind of cultivation, sending 2 heavenly gods is already thinking highly of him, let alone killing all of them. Tianyan gripped the 5-dragon divine spear tightly. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. Then, I will accept these 2 heavenly gods without hesitation. As long as the battle is close enough, he has absolute confidence that his opponents won't even have a chance to react. So what if they are heavenly gods? After breaking through, with full power, he can still kill them in a second. Kill. As soon as he got close, Tianyan immediately moved. He used teleportation and flashed behind them. Then he swung his spear at them. Although it looked like a stab, it was actually several hundred stabs, directly turning them into a mist of blood. Chapter 1555. A celestial god was easily killed, and a large pile of experience and materials surged toward him again. Following that, Tianyan teleported to the back of another celestial god and attacked again, easily killing another celestial god. Ding. Successfully killed celestial god evil spirit. Obtained 6 million experience points. Piles and piles of experience points flooded in, making him feel extremely comfortable. Level up. Ding. Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to late-stage lower celestial lord. After killing so many celestial gods, it was finally enough for him to level up, so he did not hesitate to level up. After breaking through to late-stage lower celestial god, his overall strength increased by a large margin again, and the corresponding effects of other skills were suppressed a lot. The increase in cultivation brought about the compression of skills, but when released it was still extremely heaven-defying. After all, the foundation was there. Even if it was increased by dozens of times, it was still a heaven-defying level. He was now getting experience points, and was about to level up, especially when facing so many powerhouses. He definitely had to level up to deal with them. Now that he had not come back to his senses, he was afraid that when he came back to his senses, he would go all out, and then he would not be so easy to deal with. He did not want to let this group of bastards go, and he would kill as many as he could, especially with so many experience points. If he killed a few more, he would be able to rush to late-stage celestial lord. It's a pity that these guys absorbed so many ancient bloodlines, but the bloodlines that came out are still so trash. Tianyan shook his head. Absorbing the power of other people's bloodlines only strengthened his own bloodlines. There was no big change. What? When they saw their companions killed, they were all shocked. It was just a blink of an eye. And before they could even react, they were already killed, not even having a chance to rescue them. Damn it, this kid is strange, let's subdue him together. After they came to, they all released their celestial god power to attack. This time, they did not dare to take it lightly. 2 of their companions who were not inferior to them were easily killed. It meant that Etienne's strength was definitely not weak. Therefore, they did not dare to relax, directly exploding their powerful celestial god power, but they did not completely explode with their strongest power. In their opinion, with so many people surrounding them, how could they not be able to catch one person? Those who were instantly killed were mainly due to carelessness, which led to such a situation. This time, as many as 5 powerhouses came, and all directions were blocked, so they had full confidence that they could catch Etienne. They still want to catch him alive, not kill him casually. There must be an explanation here. If there is only one corpse left, they will be, as patrols here, under normal circumstances, they will be patrolling. But they just happened, there was only one exit, of demon, and they would have it. Who would have thought that it would suddenly appear? By the time they realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. Of them, they will be and Dragon King, they and Celestial Demon. Dragon. Of the Celestial Race Sect, Etienne's eyes were cold, and he immediately threw a lot of crazy point into Dragon and Phoenix divine vein. Of he of dragon he dragon he dragon dragon of dragon he of dragon he of dragon he. Etienne didn't hesitate to upgrade Dragon, Phoenix divine meridian. This is a good thing. Naturally he needs to upgrade it. After the upgrade, the power is greatly enhanced. It can increase the power and speed. This is what he needs now. Powerful power is added to the weapon. The attack penetration is a little stronger. Killing many heavenly gods gave him enough crazy points to upgrade his bloodline. Unfortunately, crazy damage mode still can't be upgraded. If he wants to upgrade crazy mode, he must upgrade it to heavenly god stage. Obviously, even if the conditions to upgrade is met, there is a level limit. But it doesn't matter, the rest of the divine skills can be upgraded. Go. Etienne used all his power, and his speed soared. Many heavenly gods only saw a blur in front of them. Immediately after, one of the heavenly gods used his fastest speed to block the attack, but his reaction was still half a beat too slow. The 5 dragons' roar skill whistled out, and the heavenly god's body was torn apart. At the moment when the heavenly god was torn apart, Etienne threw his spear again, and the heavenly god's soul burst. In an instant, a heavenly god was successfully killed. The first one. Etienne's eyes were cold, and he rushed behind the other heavenly gods again. The dragon and phoenix phantom behind him became bigger and bigger, enveloping this area. This made his speed even more amazing. Immediately after, he rushed to the side of another heavenly god, and threw his spear again. Even if the other party had defense, he was still killed. This is the result of underestimating the enemy. This is the same as the previous heavenly god Xiaoxing. After 2 of his companions were killed in a row, only then did he realize that Etienne is not simple. He immediately summoned all the Empyrean spirit treasures to suppress Etienne. He can immediately repel, or even seriously injure him. Heavenly gods are not cabbages, and it is not so easy to cultivate. But once the enemy is underestimated, let alone lower heavenly gods, even middle heavenly gods will be killed. Unless these heavenly gods cultivate some amazing martial art that makes their defense extremely strong, the kind that is difficult to penetrate. After killing a heavenly god, he then turned to attack another heavenly god, without any delay. What he needs to do now is to kill them one by one while they are stunned, and haven't used their full strength. If he can kill one, then he counts. Otherwise, it will be difficult to kill them later. He is very strong, and his speed is even stronger. Use all your strength. Use all your strength. One of the heavenly gods immediately reacted, and with a furious roar, he released all the Empyrean spirit treasures, except for the heavenly god spirit treasures. It seems that even for them, heavenly god spirit treasures are not so easy to obtain. Perhaps only an even stronger existence can obtain them. This is also related to their cultivation. They are all early-stage lower heavenly gods, not even late-stage lower heavenly gods. One by one, the evil spirit heavenly gods immediately erupted with their strongest power, summoning their Empyrean spirit treasures. no longer daring to underestimate Itianyan. But just as they were about to summon their Empyrean spirit treasures, Itianyan had already rushed to the side of another heavenly god and started beating him up. As the other party had already summoned their Empyrean spirit treasures, they could still resist a little in a hurry. However, once Itianyan's attacks are unleashed, they have to be stained with blood. Violent attacks, crazy attacks, 5 dragons roared in all directions, forcibly breaking through the other party's hasty defenses, and directly attacking the other party's body. Boom. Chapter 1556. Ding. Successfully killed evil spirit god. Obtained 6 million compressed experience points. Once again, piles of experience points flooded in. In a short while, 2 heavenly gods were killed just like that. In addition to the one killed before, that was 3 heavenly gods. 3 of the heavenly gods that were hard to nurture were killed just like that. For any force, a heavenly god was a great deal. But in Itianyan's hands, they were really like cabbages, easily killed, harvesting their lives. Damn it, this guy is very strong. Now that they had completely woken up, they realized that someone who could sneak in was indeed not a simple person. But if they used their full strength, they were confident that they could withstand Itianyan's attack, and even stop him. Unless Itianyan's strength could increase a lot, in their opinion, they would definitely be able to subdue him. No matter how strong he is, this is the end. They flew into a rage, preparing to seal off the entire area, not letting Itianyan escape. Itianyan smiled at them and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, goodbye." The next moment, Itianyan's figure flashed, and he disappeared on the spot, causing them to miss their target. After killing them, Itianyan immediately used the teleportation godstone. As long as they did not seal off the space, he could still use it. When they were about to seal off the space, the teleportation godstone was already activated, allowing him to easily escape from this area and arrive at the exit. Looks like I can only save a portion of the people. It's time to go. Itianyan immediately rushed to the exit, and just as he rushed in, he saw the guards. The guards also saw him, but they were stunned at first, and their reaction was exactly the same as the others. They were all frightened by a human cultivator. There were many cultivators in captivity, but there was absolutely no human, not a single one. This meant that someone had sneaked in, and they still did not know. This was the only entrance. Could it be that the space in other places had been broken? While they were still in a daze, Itianyan had already charged over, directly unleashing his full strength. Taking advantage of the fact that they hadn't summoned their Empyrean spirit treasures, he had already ruthlessly attacked. One of the heavenly deity guards was caught off guard, and was easily killed by Itianyan. Who would have thought that a lower-level Empyrean could erupt with such a formidable strength? Especially when they were wondering how Itianyan got in. Successfully killed evil spirit heavenly god. Reward, 6 million EXP 50. 000 compressed crazy point 30. 000 SP obtained evil spirit bloodline, evil spirit soul, evil spirit bone. You have successfully killed someone of a higher level. You have received an additional 100,000 compressed experience points. As soon as the experience bar popped up, Itianyan once again attacked another heavenly guardian. Only now did the heavenly guardian react, throwing out an Empyrean spirit treasure to counterattack. A hasty counterattack for Itianyan is not enough. Die. Itianyan seemed to have transformed into a gigantic dragon. The 5-dragon divine spear in his hand pierced through, immediately piercing through the counterattack power, piercing through the divine guard. Bang. The divine guard immediately exploded into a pile of blood mist, turning into a pile of EXP. 2 heavenly gods were killed so easily, and Itianyan got a pile of EXP. Then he continued to rush forward, passing through a passage. A few heavenly gods appeared on the side. This passage is not long, but it is not short either. What Itianyan explored before was just the periphery. After entering, there are other areas. But this is not a problem for him. He rushed out in one breath. After these heavenly gods saw him, they intercepted him. Bold intruder, where do you think you are going? When they saw Itianyan flying over, they thought he was trying to escape, so they intercepted him. But when they rushed over, they found that Tianyan didn't run away directly, but rushed towards them without even trying to hide. They had never seen their companions being killed in an instant before. They were all scattered in other areas, so they did not notice the situation immediately. It has to be said that their laziness gave Tianyan an opportunity to take advantage of. They have been at ease for too long. There has been no enemy invasion, and nothing happened, so they will not be tense every day. They will occasionally slack off. Tianyan did not waste time with them, smashing over in one breath. With a boom, he directly killed a heavenly god, and then killed another heavenly god guard. His speed is not slow, it can be said to soar to the extreme. The increase in his cultivation caused his overall strength to greatly increase. It is simply like meeting a god, killing a god, meeting a Buddha, killing a Buddha. Monster. They were all shocked. A lower-level heavenly lord can burst out with such a strong power. Is he really a lower-level heavenly lord? They quickly reacted, and then summoned their heavenly lord's spiritual treasures to attack. Tianyan still did not retreat, still killing. The 5-dragon divine spear pierced out, killing another heavenly god. Breakthrough for me. Ding. Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to the early level of Heavenly Lord. Boom. The Heavenly God Guard, who originally wanted to suppress Tianyan, immediately felt an explosive force surge over. It can still be stronger? They were all trembling. How could they still erupt? Upon closer inspection, his eyeballs almost popped out. He had actually broken through in the blink of an eye. Shouldn't breaking through be done slowly? How could he break through while fighting? This was too strange, right? Die. Tianyan's gaze was ice cold. Towards these evil spirit race, he did not show the slightest bit of mercy. Every attack was absolutely fatal. In one breath, he rushed over and killed several more heavenly gods in succession. They could not even block him. The level of these heavenly gods was actually quite average. In this lifetime, they would most likely end up as lower-level heavenly gods. Otherwise, they would not be here as guards. Therefore, after Tianyan broke through, his combat strength had already reached the level of a lower-level heavenly god. Compared to an ordinary lower-level heavenly god, he was a level stronger. As long as the other party did not completely erupt with power, he could kill them. Sure enough, after leveling up, killing these guys is much easier. Tianyan continued to kill, forcibly killing a path of blood. Originally, he wanted to sneak out, but now he did not even need to sneak out. He could directly kill his way out. After killing his way out, he finally came out of this world. After killing his way out, Tianyan was completely stunned. What entered his eyes was still the same star domain, but the aura it gave him was not a 5th-grade god domain, but a 4th-grade god domain. He did not expect this area to be in a 4th-grade god domain, not a 5th-grade god domain. Chapter 1557. Tianyan would never have thought that he would be in the Myriad Realms God Realm. This was the region near the vast god sect. It was still quite a distance away from the vast god sect, but it was still in the same region. He didn't expect it to be so close. He thought it would be in the 5th-grade god realm. Forget about this misjudgment. He didn't expect it to be so close. This shocked him. He didn't expect a breeding ground to be so close. How could so many people not discover it? However, the guards were so strong, so no one would dare to attack recklessly unless they wanted to die. Looks like I should leave first. Tianyan immediately flew away. There were still many heavenly gods inside. If a powerful heavenly god came out, it would be hard for him to escape. Then, he immediately used the teleportation godstone to escape to the vast god sect instead of flying. If a powerful heavenly god chased after him, he would still be caught with his speed. Sure enough, after he left, there were heavenly deities who charged out from inside, their auras overbearing. The one who came out was a medium heavenly god. His eyes were like torches as he looked around, but he didn't find any suspicious cultivators. Where are they? The medium heavenly god's eyes were filled with killing intent. When he found out that so many of his subordinates had died, he had the urge to vomit blood. He didn't expect this to happen. He was just in seclusion for a bit, and this happened. How could he not vomit blood? Evil spirit race? At this moment, a cultivator happened to pass by. When they saw this medium heavenly god, they were all stunned. The evil spirit race had a very bad reputation, and they weren't welcomed here. If they were discovered, they wouldn't be able to stay here anymore. They would definitely be chased out or killed. Die. The mid-level heavenly god stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion, crushing that divine lord like he was crushing an ant. His cultivation was too low, so he killed him directly. Their identities couldn't be seen here. The guards outside weren't from the evil spirit race. This was a cover. Now that they were discovered, they would definitely be killed. Damn it, where did they go? The evil spirit god searched everywhere. With his current identity, he really couldn't just wander around here. After searching for a while, he had no choice but to quickly return to his territory. I can't find him at all. This fellow really is fast. Empyrean Godvile Spirit had an ugly look on his face. There were quite a few Empyrean gods in front of him, and all of them had their heads lowered, not daring to meet his gaze in the slightest. They couldn't even catch a single person. How could they have the face to see anyone? Now that he had committed a grave mistake, he did not dare to look him in the eye. A human of the lower celestial realm cultivation base. He's running away just like that. Are you still heavenly gods? In my opinion, you're not even comparable to a star lord. The heavenly spirit god roared with rage. They could only lower their heads and listen. How could they dare to retort? Seeing that they didn't say a word, the evil spirit deity shook his head. We can't stay here any longer. That human will definitely spread the news of this place. At that time, if we get surrounded, this place will be destroyed. Yes. They didn't say much and immediately went to relocate. This world could be moved. Although it would take some effort, it was better than not being able to move and directly destroying this place, right? Especially after being discovered, it would be a huge problem. It was equivalent to exposing the things that they had been hiding all along. How could it not be a huge problem? After Tianyan rushed back to the vast divine sect, he immediately saw the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate and the others. Little junior brother, what's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? When the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate saw Tianyan coming over, he smiled and said, Speaking of which, Master came to ask us previously if you were back. It's good that you're fine. You made Master very worried and thought that you were swept away by the spatial turbulence. I was really swept away by the spatial turbulence. They were all stunned, sizing up Tianyan. He was swept away by the spatial turbulence, yet he could still return so smoothly and without any injuries? This matter is very important now. I need Master's help. Where's Master? Did he go back? Tianyan asked. Yes, he already went back. There are still many things to do in the heaven cultivation deity realm. Is there anything? If there's anything, you can tell us. We can help you. The sword ruler Heavenly Venerate and the others were puzzled. It's a very important matter, but your cultivation is too low. There's no way you can help at all. Tianyan shook his head. The opponents were all heavenly deities. Their cultivation bases were all heavenly venerates. How could they help? They looked at each other and immediately knew the seriousness of the situation. Then I'll go and ask Master for help first. I'll tell you the details when the time comes. Tianyan did not hesitate and turned to leave. He knew that if he did not hurry, he would not make it in time. He knew that the other party would definitely move immediately, and would not stay here obediently. After he went out, he immediately used the teleportation divine stone to head to the heaven cultivation deity realm, leaving the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate looking at each other. Speaking of which, little junior brother's cultivation seems to have broken through to the middle-level Heavenly Venerate? It seems so. They looked at each other and trembled violently, feeling that it was a little unbelievable. How long had it been, and he had broken through? When Tianyan quickly rushed to the heaven cultivation deity realm, he immediately came to the temple where the great Devis was. Hey Tianyan, it's great that you're fine. I was worried that you would be swept away by the space turbulence. It's good that you're fine. Disciple was indeed swept away by the space turbulence, and I was swept to a very strange place. Long story short, Disciple will now pass on to you what happened. Etianyan immediately passed on the corresponding memory scene. No matter what, it was not as real as the scene. After the great Devis looked at it, his original calmness turned to anger, and then to shock. He did not expect that there would be so many ancient-level cultivators in captivity. That's the general situation. There are many experts there. If we don't hurry over, they will be transferred immediately, Etianyan said in a deep voice. Okay, I'll send someone over now. The great Devis did not hesitate. This matter was of great importance. If he rescued so many ancient-level cultivators, he could definitely strengthen the forces here. If they sent people over to rescue, they would definitely be taken away. Etianyan knew that this would happen, but there was no other way. He could not swallow them all in one go. His strength was still not enough. Moreover, if the great Devis went to rescue, he could also make a great contribution to himself, and his status would rise. For him, there were also many benefits. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.